Hey, how you doing? This is John, and welcome to John's Longbox, and probably on the fourth age too, right? Did you figure it out?
I figured it out. I just had to put a thumbnail in there, but yep, I got it going. I think.
Oh, cool, cool, cool. So now we're on both channels simultaneously. Cool. So there you go. There's no escaping us. Soon we'll be on everybody's channel. Soon it will be all RJ and John's Longbox on all YouTube forever and ever. So how you doing, RJ? Happy New Year, Merry Christmas. I haven't seen you in a while, right?
Yeah, no, we haven't been since before Christmas. So yes, Happy New Year and a Merry Christmas. How are things going? I know you're back in the night shift, so
Yeah, we're back. For a couple of weeks around the holidays, they didn't have the extra shifts, so everybody was condensed, and you get a little spoiled because it's a construction site, but there's only us 8 electricians and my crew working and my foreman, and it's quiet. It's eerily quiet. I got used to it. There's nobody there, and so now that I'm back at nights, I'm like, yeah, I kind of enjoy it. We just put on, we're all working in the same area, but it's a big area. We put on music. I'm over here doing my thing. He's over here doing his thing, but there's no drilling from other people. And, I could get used to it. The only thing that sucks is I have no life. You know what I mean? Like it's nice that I could go to bed and wake up whenever I want. But then I go to work, and I'm tending to stay up later and later and sleep later and later, but I don't have to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I'll wake up and be like, oh, it's 9:30, and I woke up on my own. This is nice. But then it's like, I don't want to do anything because I got to go to work soon. Yeah. Then last week I worked a double shift, so I had to cancel at the last minute. Yeah. So did you do anything for New Year's or Christmas?
now I spend it with family mostly.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I got a big family. I got 6 brothers and sisters, but they all spend with their kids, So me and my wife, we just plus New Year's is also our wedding anniversary. I mean, Christmas Eve is also our wedding anniversary. We got married.
Oh, really?
So me and my wife, we don't do anything on Christmas Eve, and then Christmas we went to my niece's house for a big dinner. That was nice. But New Year's, I was never a big New Year's person. I always felt like New Year's was like too forced to have fun. So me and my wife we made ourselves a nice dinner, and like I think we would sleep by 10:30, just watching TV. Vaz is here. How you doing, Vaz? How's everything? Tony Grigo is here. Hi. What are your thoughts on Ra's al Ghul's long lost grandson being trans? Of course he is. Why not? Yeah. I just think they missed out. What they called him, featherweight or her, whatever. I think it would have been a great name to call it the transgressor, and just have an aggressive trans person. Just like his weakness is he has a 41% chance of suicide. That would have been a great character. So, of course it is. Do you think there's ever any coming back from modern comics?
Not for the mainstream, no. Just not for the mainstream. It's. I mean, I'm sorry to say this, but something's going to take over, and I don't think it's going to be American style comics. It's going to be a manga style or webtoons or something like that. I mean, the indie will always be there, but not mainstream.
I just think comics. It'll, like you said, it'll always be there. There'll always be comics. There'll always be people that want like a comic book to read, but I think it's just gonna get smaller and smaller. And I really do think that it's only a matter of time before Marvel and DC or put out to pasture, and they just license those characters out.
Speaking of comics, just to let everybody know, I got John's comic over the Christmas break, and he nailed my likeness in the internal stories there.
For those of you who do not know, I was keeping it a secret. I think I told you about it, and then I just was hushed. So were you taken by surprise?
Yeah, it was.
Okay, because what I did was I put a Calvin and Hobbes 2-page strip, like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then the next page was a full-page Sunday strip of RJ and me, and it's just me and RJ reading comic books. What did you like it?
No, I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
I really liked it.
I stressed myself out. I'm like, I can't write funny. And then I think it was pretty funny. That's my wife's favorite part of the comic.
I thought of it more of a Mad Magazine than a Calvin and Hobbes. But, that's where my mind went to when I was like, hey, I was reading a strip in the middle of a magazine, right?
So that's great. Did you remember I talked to you about it?
No, I
Oh,
hadn't.
so you would take him completely by surprise.
Yep.
Oh,
I remember that you told me Thomas Valiant was going to be in it and how he was. And I was like, oh, there it is. But besides that, I didn't remember the other.
oh, good. I'm looking for the file because now that you've got it, I'll show that page. But first, I'm gonna just say hello to everybody. We got a whole bunch of comments. George, oh, George, how you doing, Morales? It's good to see you. Ryan Banks, hello. How's everybody? Zach Tan with the blessing. There we go. How you doing, Zach Tan? It's too far gone. Yeah, I think mainstream modern comics, I don't know. I'm a continuity freak. So once they started doing away with continuity, like to me, the fact that like they canceled Fantastic Four and then started again with the numbering, that almost made me want to quit. Like I wanted continuous numbering, I don't know. I guess I'm a dinosaur. They should license out that way. It'll run people who care, or at least want to make. Yes and no, because you're going to get people who are going to make Batman cannibal, and Superman transdressed, icon. They're going to do stuff like that.
The funny thing is, John, I saw a list of the most searched things on the internet for 2025. And guess what was number one? It was number 1 or 2, I think. I think it was number 1. Spider-Man.
Oh, Spider-Man's the most searched thing on the internet?
Yeah. It's like most searched term on the internet. I'm going, well, Spider-Man still has relevance. So that's why they're milking this, like Batman still has relevance for DC. Right, that's why they're milking these things dry.
Right. I think Spider-Man and X-Men are carrying Marvel, and Batman is carrying DC. I like when Marvel brought back the old creative teams for some of the miniseries like Silver Surfer, Hulk, and such. Set like it was a continuity of their old runs. Yeah. And John Byrne's going to be doing his run on the, he did like a fan fiction of the X-Men, and that'll probably be the first. That will be the first Marvel new off the rack Marvel I buy in 10 years. So this is the strip that we're talking about. I'm going to make the screen big, so you guys get a little sneak peek at my comic, Heroic Tales. This is why isn't it not getting bigger? That is weird. Okay, but this is RJ and me. Can we even see it? I can't even make it bigger. But this was just like a little Calvin and Hobbes goof. It's me reading comic books, and then RJ's the Bigfoot, and I'm explaining comics to him, and RJ is Calvin, and I'm Hobbes. Like I'm the tigeristic, the animalistic person. And I just think it's funny that a big Bigfoot is all philosophical and wise and everything. And then here you are in my comic book room. I like. What did you think of the message?
I honestly, I was just laughing too hard, right, John?
Yeah, because this is just. I'm showing my comic book room to RJ, the Bigfoot, and he's like, "Oh, look at all these comic books." And then he's like, "What are these?" And I'm showing him CGC slabbed comics.
Oh yes.
And it says, what are these? Oh, those are slabbed comics. Slabbed? Yeah, people buy comics and put them in these hard, unopenable cases. And then RJ says, "Where's the fun in that?" I go, "You're right. Hold on, I'll be right back. Where are you going? To get a screwdriver." And then the last panel is the cases are broken open and we're reading the comics. That shows all you need to know about how I feel about CGC and comics. But
if you lose me, John, my computer is acting up again. Apologies.
Okay. I'm gonna read my favorite one, and then I'll end this. So so the Wednesday strip, RJ sitting there reading a comic. It says, "Interesting. The hero seems to be an Aristotelian representation of truth." And then the second panel is him explaining to me, "I never expected such sophistication from a comic book." And the last panel is, "Yes, and that redhead is wearing a chainmail bikini." I don't know why this just happened. My computer's well, something's going on. have you seen? Do you have Verizon phones and do you have service? Because like the whole East Coast Verizon isn't working.
No, I don't have Verizon. I don't. That's not my carrier.
Yeah, so I don't know. At work, we were talking about like one of the guys was just like, my kid has medical issues, and I was like, what do you want us to do? Like, go home then, you know? So you can rage all you want at work, but we can't make Verizon work.
You know, John, it's like, again, I'm a dinosaur, but I was telling people like, you know, I've never had a landline where I live right now, but I was saying I was trying to get rid of the cell phone and get a landline. Everybody's like, you can't do that. So why not? Worked in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s.
Right. I have a landline right over here, and if it rings, it's a spam caller. So what am I even paying for this for? You know? Yeah, I agree with this. The character's big tool will be regulated to IPs for exploitation. Exactly. Zach Tan's doing good. There are 2 ongoing Spider-Man mangas in Japan right now. Yes. There's like a supernatural manga. Is there a Batman manga? Superman or Batman will be action figures, video games, cartoon characters, stickers, lunchbox. Exactly. And the Hulk will show up in cartoons and stuff like that. You know, if you go to Tokyo Tower, you can buy limited Spider-Man comics that you can only buy there. Cool. Yeah, just like up into the late 70s, I think Mexico produced their own Spider-Man comics where Gwen Stacy never died. Hello, Lisa Roberts. It's a nice, funny strip. Yeah, my wife likes that's my wife's favorite part of the comic. Hello, it's been a while. Good to see you. I got mint. It's been fine. Cool. Okay.
So comic book nerd moment here, John.
Sure.
Here's the thing I didn't like about John's book. Okay.
Uh-oh.
Okay, so
it came out.
Comic book nerd all the way. I don't like the way that you put tape on the back of the comic book bag, John.
Oh, really?
I always open mine facing me, so I have to have the tape on an angle going from downwards from left to right so that I don't I make sure I don't squeeze the bag any so that the comic doesn't get crinkled in any way.
Okay, so you don't know what I'm okay, so here's a comic that I just read, Miss Tree. I bagged it and boarded it, and can you see this is how I put the tape. Okay, so I open the tape like that. So that's how I bagged and boarded it.
75-degree angle. 75-degree
75 degree. I'll get my level out next time. and you put the flap in the front?
No, I turn it like that's what I'm saying. When I open a comic bag, I face it towards me, and then my left hand goes towards the back and then goes 75 degrees, and I open it so I don't actually ever make sure the comic gets bent in any way. Right. But, you know, that's just comic book.
I open it, I turn it like this, and then I use this tape that comes off really easy. And then I take the tape and I do this.
And
then I take the comic out of the bag, read it, and then reuse the tape because, you know, the earth matters. And I don't
just let anybody know if they want to clone John. His DNA and fingerprints are all over every book that he ever bagged.
Yeah. I put a little bit of me in every comic. So you remember that Thomas Valiant popped up?
Oh yeah.
There's a little clue. Did you for those of you who there's the subterranean hits him in the face with the spores and he hallucinates. And then he sees Horse H. Hoover, Wolf of Batsy, and Thomas Valiant. And then the next page, he sees Versima and Lily and Wop Wopwet. There's a reason why I separated them. Did you figure out why they're not on the same page?
No,
because he didn't recognize Versima and Lily and Wop Wopwet, but he recognized Thomas Valiant because Thomas Valiant and Wolf and Batsy and Horse H. Hoover, they're comic books that the Patriarch's children read. So the Patriarch's children read your comics, but Lily, Wop Wopwet, and Versima, they exist somewhere. They're not comic book characters. That's why I didn't recognize them. So my characters will be appearing in Bill Williams' comic Giant Size Punchline Annual #1, the campaign, and it'll be in comic book stores. So my characters actually cross dimensions, or his character cross dimensions and meets my character. So I didn't want to make his character Racema a hallucination, because they actually do meet in continuity. And then Tonic Ball's characters, Lily and Wop Wop, what they do is they travel the whole multiverse. So, and he gave them like advice that they actually could use. So that was just a little, these characters exist somewhere. These characters are comic book cartoons.
Here's what I was wondering. You see, this is what a good comic book does. It makes you think about things that sometimes the author never thinks about. But when I was reading the other story, the Mary Sue story, so it was very, very Renzo with the art. I mean, I know it was Renzo doing it, but his creations for the monsters is like, that's so Renzo. Anyway, I was thinking to myself, there has to be an explanation of why such horrible looking creatures with giant fangs don't attack directly but attack indirectly and I was thinking to myself, there's got to be a reason for it, and if they ever appear again, there should be a reason for it.
What that they use the tongues?
They use the tongues instead, and don't really attack directly because they got huge fangs and everything as well, right?
Right. I guess I'm spoiling, but you do see them again.
Okay, there you go. That's all I want to know.
When they use the mouth, what they're literally doing is sucking out your life. They're sucking out your soul. So if they're using their claw, they'll use that to defend themselves, or they'll do it against beings without souls. But that's what they do. They actually, there's a whole hierarchy. The more souls they suck out, their skin color actually changes. They get more powers. So yes, I have a whole hierarchy of them. And if you're a D&D player, you should pick up which creature I base them on. Like I keep saying, my comic book is a mix between superheroes, Dungeons & Dragons, and Lovecraft. Yes, they're sucking essences. Yes.
That's really funny. I was just thinking of a story that I wanted to do, and it would be completely full of monsters. There's no actual people in it, at least for the first, probably like 10 issues if I ever got that far. And my mind keeps on going back to D&D monsters as the basis for how do I create a monster for this.
Yeah, I like that. People are commenting on it's more like a 74.9 degree. There you go. That guy's an engineer. The flap goes absolutely. Only barbarians put the flap in the front, and the flap goes on the top just in case there's ever a flood. If the flap was on the bottom, water might get in. But
here's the sacrilegious thing that I do, which everyone was, but I have a reason for it. So from my comics of old, I always put 2 comics in a bag, separated by a back, because it evens out the box. Okay. Besides the fact that I don't have to buy twice as many bags, and I'm cheap.
Because I used to put miniseries in one bag.
Well, that's when bags were actually would fit your comic, or even just a slightly bigger than your comic. Now it's barely you can get them in there.
Right? Yeah. You're because check out this bag. So this I did just look how big this bag is. I got to change it now. It's actually, you can see how long it's been. The tape is actually turning yellow. This is from 1978. And I bought this off the rack, so I probably got this bag in the early 80s. This is the early.
I still have some where the flap for the bag comes halfway down.
Oh, I hate those. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, and then there was like a time period where the bags just didn't fit, and the do you remember actually having to cut your own backing boards?
Oh yeah.
Oh, I hated that, because I used the scissors, so sometimes it would be like almost triangular shape. Every once in a while I'll come across a comic where I cut my own backing board, and I'm like, oh god, like it's such an extravagance buying, because I buy like 500 bags and 500 backing boards at the same time. So I have a long box just filled with bags, and like I'll watch TV and I'll just fill empty bags with backing boards, and I keep them in a long box. So when I go back there and sort comics, I just pull them out. It's I enjoy it.
There's a bit of a time capsule element to it with my books in my long boxes, because what I used to do when I was a kid was every cereal box that got emptied, it would be mine, because I'd cut it up and use the cardboard as a spacer. right? So I'm going through my books, through my comics, and it's like I'm seeing, cereal boxes from 1975 or 1981, right?
Oh wow, cereal boxes. Yeah, because I think you should swap them out because if
Oh no, this is for yeah.
yeah,
I
'cause
wouldn't put them on the comic because that would bleed. The colors would bleed onto it, right?
not only that, I think they're not acid free. They could harm your comic.
Yeah,
Oscar,
but I use them as spacers for like
oh spacers. Oh
right.
space. I thought you meant inside the bag. Okay.
When I was a little kid, I'm sure I put them inside the bag. There might still be some that are there, but I haven't gone through. My brother probably switched them out because he's like, "Why would you do this to your comic?"
I used to take little white stickers, little rectangles, and I used to summarize the comic and put it on. And then I realized that was just too much work. I was buying too many comics. You know what I mean? But every once in a while, I'll find a comic with one of those stickers, and they literally have to be like my first 200 comics to have those stickers. So Oscar saying, for those of you who don't know, Oscar is the colorist on the Mary Sue story, and he is the colorist going forward on the entire Patriarch comic, and he will be doing the art on one of my stories and color. So yeah, super talented guy, and he makes
color is key for Mary Sue story.
Oh yes, color is very important. I brought up this page because this is the page where you see Wolf and Batsy, Horace H. Hoover, and then on the bottom panel there you see Thomas Valiant. He goes, "Excuse me, man, but I think Tempest would be the best virtue just right now." He stops Mary Sue from, he stops Batsy from biting the Patriarch. It was fun, even though you guys, because Horace H. Hoover had like a giant word balloon, and I just couldn't fit it. So I had to like really, really strain myself. Because if you know the character by Fabrizio Aiello, one of my favorite comics, is Horace H. Hoover. He's very loquacious. So to put him down into a small word balloon was really, really tough. And and Brian Bow is very, very protective of his characters. And he wouldn't let me put Wolf and Batsy in, but he was okay with it because they're hallucinations. They're not really in the book. You know what I mean? That's how I got away with it. Yeah. Hey, Stephen Johnson's here. Good to see you, Stephen. Stephen's an artist for hire. He does like wonderful. Stephen, let me know if this is a disservice, but I consider your work to be like a Norman Rockwell type of like good, wholesome artwork. If anybody wants anything like that, I'm actually thinking for a future cover. I wanted to do like a Norman Rockwell type cover, and I would like to hire Steven to do a cover, like a variant cover.
Is he an illustrator or a comic book?
He's a fine artist. He's a fine artist. I don't think, Steven, would it be fair to say you've never done comics? If you did do comics, I'm not aware of it, but I would like him to do. He's been on my channel, showed off his artwork, really, really cool. He has done like graphic storytelling, but not quite actual comics, but
yeah, I had someone work with me to do posters. He was a illustrator. He did pen and ink, or what do you call it? Yeah, I guess it's pen and ink. It's the old style. It's almost like engraving.
How you doing, Orbital Bacon? I'm loving seeing all these new names to me. John Arger, is there any chance of any using literary public domain characters in any of your? Excuse me, I'm sorry, Sherlock Holmes. RJ, would you use any public domain characters?
I said it over and over again. I'll say it again. Yes, but only as a backstory. Basically, like you have here with Thomas Valiant, it would just be something in the background of a panel. It wouldn't be a main part of the story.
I do not want. I want to play with my own toys. I'm not ruling out the idea of never ever doing a public domain character. I mean, I are history characters real, because I want to do a Christmas story featuring the three wise men. I'm doing
plagiarizing for the Bible now, John. Look.
What's that?
I said you're plagiarizing from the Bible now. Look,
right. Well,
just go downhill.
Well, but there's no backstory on them, so I'm giving them a backstory, and I'm doing a story of Santa Claus and Odin. So, are those public domain characters? If so, then yes. But like Sherlock Holmes, Dracula, I was thinking of a Frankenstein story, but but maybe those maybe literature characters, but like I'm reading the Scarlet Pimpernel now, and I'm kind of thinking about the Scarlet Pimpernel a lot. But I don't want to do Batman, Superman, and stuff like that. So I would rather use my characters instead of Batman, Superman, whatever. But like a League of Extraordinary Gentlemen type, like Captain Nemo. I use Captain Nemo a lot in my role playing game. So it would be really weird if he didn't show up in a story set in that type of Captain Nemo. I said it before, Captain Kirk, Captain Nemo, and Superman are like my 3 favorite fictional characters of all time. Oh,
for me, it would be Mr. Spock, Yoda, and Captain America.
Okay, so yeah, we could get along. I could be Kirk, you could be Spock. We'll do. You're logical. And like I said, if my comic campaign gets to $100,000, RJ's coming down here and we'll play role playing games. So I'll make a mask for him, a shield with little eye holes in it, so he won't be able to. And I demand that he wears it at the door. I don't want to see what RJ. You'll get like a sack over your head, and we'll paint like a shield over it or something. I don't want it. RJ, your face can only be disappointing.
Oh, thanks. That's what everybody says, I guess.
I double bag and board. Oh God, that is a lot of work. I mean, I will say this: this comic book has been in the same bag and board in 6 or 7 different locations across 2 different states, and the only damage it has ever gotten from one regular bag, one regular board, was before I bagged and bought it, when I bought it off the newsstand and brought it to school, and it lived in like my folder, and like the other 6th graders read it. So, like this is a 30-year-old comic book. It looks brand new, bagged and boarded, in a long box. I stack them standing up, and I fill each box so that they're not like flopped over. And I think it does well enough. So I don't know, Tony. I think a double bag and board is overkill, but I'm not telling you you're wrong. I mean, whatever works.
I think that is the hallmark of a good comic store, John. If they have a long box where the comics are falling over and are bent, I'm like, what is the matter with you people?
Oh, I got thrown out of one comic book store because he had all the expensive comics hanging up, but they were all sun damaged.
Yeah.
And I said to him, "What are you doing?" I said, "You get yourself a photocopier and put a sheet of paper in front of them so that the piece of paper gets sun damaged." I said, "Why would I buy that? Get out of my store." I was like, "Okay." I wasn't going to buy them anyway. I cannot pronounce this. Alessandro Salvo. I'm working on a comics that's a pastiche of Golden Age characters. Do you have any advice on how to sell it? Geez, if I had advice on how to sell comic books, I would be selling comic books more than I'm doing. My first comic, I only sold like, online and offline, about 700 copies. My second comic book, online and offline, I'm up 500 copies. So the best thing to do is I still would, and I didn't even take this advice, but I would try to solicit it to get it in comic book stores, because at least you get it to more eyes. Like if you have one comic in every comic book store, it's more eyes. But I do a YouTube channel for years, and people know me. I try to get on other channels and promote. That's really it. Like if you want, send me some pages. Don't send me a free copy or anything like that. I'm not asking. And if I have to say this, because people send me stuff and I just don't want to promote it, because I have to have some sort of minimum standard. Yeah, I hope you understand what I'm talking about. And if I like it, I'll bring it on my channel. We'll talk about it. That's the most I could do for you. I like doing that. I think it's fun. I think the more comic books that are out, the better it is. So I'm not one of these snobs that like, oh, RJ's comic has to sell less than mine. I'm glad that RJ's comic is blowing my comic out of the water, and he's dragging me in his wake. You know what I mean? And if I could drag you in my wake, that's great. And I didn't mean that to sound insulting. That sounded a little insulting, but I didn't mean it that way. Or Steven Johnson. Okay, so I didn't say anything improper. Man, too much coffee. Can you tell? Greetings to Fourth Age. Some of the oldest fan fiction is biblical fan fiction. Yes, and there's a wonderful story about Alexander the Great conquering the moon that was written in like the Middle Ages. I love that kind of stuff. RJ likes stoic types, so I hope you like the patriarch, RJ. And I think behind the scenes, I told you how you influenced some of the stuff in my comic books. I always wanted to do comics. Yeah, I think Heroic Tales 5 might have the story about a boy and his dog, and I immediately thought of you, Stephen. You would be the most wholesome artist for that cover. Yes, seeing RJ's face would ruin more than just the immersion, I think. I think it would ruin lots of things, kind of like a mythology tragedy in a kind of way.
I'll tell you right now, John, when I actually meet people in real life, because my business used to be
they run in horror
online, right? It would be quite the opposite. They would look at me and going, "You're RJ?" And they look at me going, "Are you sure?" Because I sound like an old man. I sound like I should be, especially on emails, right? I'm probably 102 or something like that. And they look at me going, "Huh?"
I got it. There's a picture online. I got to get this guy. It's how I picture you, and I wonder how close I am. That's the only reason why I want to see your faces, just to see how close you look to this guy who I decided is you. And
I remember one time I went in to pick up a check from work I was doing, and they wouldn't give it to me because they didn't believe it was me.
Does your driver's license have a picture of that shield?
No. I got dystopian driver's license. It's like Matrix green.
Oh. John and RJ, when I created Solo Legion, I made sure all the heroes had interesting occupations that would always factor into their stories. How important are hero occupations to you? That's an interesting question. RJ, do you have an answer for that?
Well, I would say it's important to develop, for me anyways. The occupation is usually a historical thing because most of my characters are actual superheroes, because it's in a world where a lot of people want to be a superhero and some of them take it too far and they become like celebrities. But the backstory of who they were informs who they are. So like Pulse was a soldier, and so was Thomas Valiant, which they were in the same unit at one point. So, but he wasn't as much as a soldier as Pulse, things like that. And if you look on my cards, you'll see everybody has a former occupation, like Disc was a mercenary, all these kinds of things, right? So very important, if you ask me, to flush out backstory.
I agree. I'm kind of a weirdo. I like to give way too much, but like you guys in the two comics, you only got a scratch of how much information there are about my characters. But the you wouldn't know it yet, but the patriarch, he's a full-time superhero. That's his job. You'll see in Patriarch #1 his relationship with the government and things like that. I just didn't have the space to do it, and I originally only planned every issue I was going to do a different hero and then go back every couple of issues, but everybody said no, we like the patriarch. So, but anyway, Patriarch #1, you're going to find out he was an EMT before he was a superhero. He was always a heroic good guy, and in my world, when you get superpowers, if you see the Mary Sue story, that's the tip of the iceberg of explaining where superpowers come from. It reveals kind of, how when they say when you become rich, it doesn't change you, it just reveals what you always were. Same with superpowers. So, and I guess for all my positivity, I do have like a cynical view of humanity. I think the average person given superpowers would become a villain, not because they want to take over the world, not because they want to oppress their neighbors, but just because, it's easy, and if all of a sudden you could teleport people, like I know about you, but I'd be driving and like, that car's gone, that guy's driving too slow, this woman's walking too, you know what I mean? We would just become villains. Where did they go? I don't know, I don't care. And next thing you know, people are falling out of the sky. So the fact that the patriarch's still a good guy, because he was always a good guy before he got his power. So yes, I agree with you. Their occupation, plus it adds so much interesting stuff. Like the Raven, I didn't debut him yet, but the Raven is an undercover cop who gets fed up with arresting these criminals, and then these judges let him go free, which I just thought of a story saying that sentence. Why doesn't he go after these judges? That's a good story. I start working on that tonight. I really like that idea. But he just dresses up as a freaking Avenger of the Night and beats up these criminals. Like he's an undercover, so he's working with criminal organizations, finding out the information and then telling HQ, this guy's doing this tonight, okay. And then the next day he's like, oh man, I just got arrested last night. And these clowns, I just talked to the lawyer and I got off. Yeah, these cops are all clowns. And he's just like, I just like 6 months trying to get you busted. And it's, so he out of frustration, he dresses up as a superhero and beats the crap out of him. That's what he says. Like, yeah, like you'll see in one of the comics, he's like, the guy's like, go ahead, arrest me. I'll have my lawyer out. And he's just like, I'm not arresting you. And like he curb stomps him. He goes, you're never going to eat again. You're never going to walk again, because I can't trust. He's out of his mind, the Raven. But he's not he's not a good guy. He's a violent guy. RJ, what's the name of the Greek story where the guy says, I didn't kill my father, I killed the killer of my mother, or something like that? It was the same.
That would be it's a collection of stories. It's the Oresteia. It's three plays about Orestes, who's the son of Agamemnon.
Right. Clytemnestra and her new lover killed Agamemnon. Now, Clytemnestra had a legitimate beef for killing because Agamemnon killed, what's the name of the girl, the daughter?
Phryginia.
Yeah, Iphigenia. He killed Iphigenia as a sacrifice to the gods so that the wind would blow so they could sail off to the Trojan War. And that was it, Clytemnestra. So she's got a legitimate beef. Her husband just killed their daughter. You know what I mean? And then she gets a lover. And then when Agamemnon comes home, her and the lover kill the father. And then their son kills the mother. And then, what was it? The Erinyes, the Furies? They're going to kill him. And Apollo becomes the lawyer and says, because the Erinyes are just absolute justice. Doesn't matter. You killed your mother. You killed that's parricide or fratricide. That's it. We kill you. And Apollo's like, wait a minute. There was some extraneous because you have to avenge your father. So here's what's more important: avenging your father or punishing the one who killed the mother. So there's a that's, I guess, Greek mythology is like beginning of lawyers and intent and stuff like that, rather than just absolute justice. Did I get it right, RJ? I know this is your territory.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's the story. I can't remember if it's Aeschylus or Euripides. That's one of those three guys, the main three. I can't remember.
Well, did you hear about the Greek guy who tore his toga? And he goes into the tailor, and the tailor says, Euripides? And he goes, yeah, Euripides. My only ancient Greek joke that I know. Steve Johnson says, thanks. Yep. Anytime, Steve. I'm rooting for you. He's a good, talented guy. John, how are things in Manhattan going? Is there much difference now that it's under new management? I avoid Manhattan the way I was going to say something really crude, and I check myself whenever RJ's around. But just beat me out and think of the filthiest thing you could possibly think of. That's what I was going to say. But I try to stay out of Manhattan.
You get dinged every time you go down the street.
Every time
I've been reading your plates,
I get into fistfights on the subways. I don't know what it is, but like, don't they recognize a crazy person when they see you? Like literally, like 2 weeks ago, I got into another fistfight.
I could just picture. Here's the picture I have in my head right now: John and Richard from Comics Matter getting in a fight in New York because they run into each other.
Well, he
start arguing about comics.
But I imagine he would be respectful and on the subway, so there's no reason to fight. But that's like I just can't take it anymore. Has anything changed? No, not yet. But I work in Queens. I work at the airport, so I have no need to go to Manhattan yet. But they just said that this new woman who's going to be in charge of housing doesn't believe. She says that owning housing is signs of white privilege. What is going on with the world? Is it? I've been apologizing to my wife for the past 2 weeks because I've just been in a super bad mood, and I think it's just the world and politics, and then like all this drama in comic book YouTube that's just been getting me. So I made a New Year's resolution to stay out of drama, not mention these things that just drive me nuts. But I can't avoid politics. So I know. If I go into Manhattan, there's going to be a problem, and it's going to end up with me in handcuffs. And then the way this new mayor is going to be is I'm the one who's going to jail no matter what. So I don't go to Manhattan, Tony. So I hope that was an answer to your question. Speaking of comics, have either of you have roadmap updates? What do you mean by that? Zach 10, can you rephrase the question? Me and RJ, we're just guys who want to talk about Spider-Man, so we're not that smart. We pretend. Oedipus, yes, Oedipus.
Oedipus killed his mother because
killed his
gouged out his eyes. That's
mother.
a different story.
Yeah.
After he married her.
Okay, we're I love this. We're talking about Greek mythology and Greek plays. His driver's license only has his initials. I found your channel because I assume you're talking about Fourth Age. I don't have any drawn pages yet because I'm still without an artist. Okay. Oh, if he's send a script. You know what I mean? Because I sent my script to Chuck Dixon and he gave me pointers, and same with Mike Barron. So not that I'm anywhere near their level, but like if those guys could take time out to help nobody like me, I could definitely help somebody. I helped another guy, and then I think he got mad and I helped him and then stopped talking to me. So I don't know what to say about that. I think it depends on how often a superhero needs to intervene. Like if he's a volunteer firefighter, then an occupation makes sense. Can give them more connection to the regular lives they protect. In my world, once the government finds out you have superpowers, you basically get conscripted, and you get a salary, and you get like a legal defense and health care. So patriarch,
like
what's that?
Sounds like the Pit.
Yeah, like, you know what I mean? Like, but like the patriarch, find that comes at a price, and you'll see that in patriarch number 1. You know, he's chomping at the bit. He can't take it anymore. My album is an anthology of stories which public domain characters meet is a style that's somewhat reminiscent of the League of Extraordinary. Okay, cool. Oh, the Walt Newton family. Somebody mentioned that to me a few times. I think you did. I got to check that out. RJ John, what are your thoughts on the new Avengers film? Do you think it will successfully revive the MCU? I have no thoughts or opinions on it because I'm like done with pop culture, to be honest. I have like the worst YouTube channel in the world because like I don't want to talk about pop culture. I don't want to do live reviews of trailers. The MCU they really, really got to impress me with the next movie, because the last MCU movie I saw in the movie theaters was the Spider-Man, just because I wanted to see Tobey Maguire and Andy Garfield, interact with what's his name, the new one, who's not really Peter Parker.
Somebody was watching over the holidays. I was at my mother's house. Somebody turned on my sister turned on Shang-Chi, the movie, right? Because it was just on television on one of the channels. And I was watching it half out of the corner of my eye as we were playing a game.
It's too hot. I'll be right back.
And I was saying to myself, oh my God, this is bad. This is, I mean, it's not even woke bad. It was just pure bad. It was, I don't know what you'd call it, amateur hour for a show back in the 90s.
The Shang-Chi movie, I did a big reaction to it, and I took out I took out every single Shang-Chi comic book up until 2005 from his first appearance, just to prove that, because I was waiting for somebody to be like, you don't know what you're talking about. So I cut him off at the full. First off, it was boring kung fu. I mean, if you're gonna do a kung fu movie, the kung fu was boring. Second off, that guy, Simo Hung, whatever his name is, Simo Lee, he's boring. He's got about as much charisma as a dinner plate. And that Serafina is just nails on a chalkboard. And then they took everything about Shang-Chi. I could go on a rant here if you don't mind, RJ.
Oh, go ahead.
Shang-Chi wears the yin and yang symbol, right? The black
on the bag is.
Yeah, I always call it the fish symbols and stuff like that. And that symbol is about duality. And Shang-Chi is the ultimate epitome of duality. Shang-Chi's mother is a Western European woman. Shang-Chi's father is an Asian Chinese person. His mother is of the modern world. His father is of the old world, Fu Manchu, whatever you want to call it, because that's who his father is in the comics. He's from the 1800s. He's kept himself alive artificially through, demonic or sorcerous means. So he's the old ancient world. She's the modern world. He's the Orient. She's the Occidental. The father's evil. The mother's actually good. Now, here's the brilliant part. And they wouldn't do this because of the Chinese market. Shang-Chi was born in Hong Kong. Hong Kong was a British city in China. I mean, back when Shang-Chi was created. So he was a British citizen that didn't fit in China. And then because he's half white, and then when he went to England, they were making fun of him and calling him a Chinaman. He didn't fit. He didn't fit in anywhere. He was perfectly, like, he was a child of both worlds. And that's what he was trying to do. Figure out what was my place in this world. You know, he had these monstrous impulses because of his father's tampering with him, you know, and his father was twisted logic and his mother's emotion. That's what he was. He was the epitome of duality, you know, rage and gentleness. You know, he had, his first impulse was to fight, and then he would calm himself. And they did none of that in the movie. This was generic kung fu hero tied into magic rings. They, you know, and then that actor will not sign any Jim Starlin or Doug Munich or any Mike Zeck comics because they're old white racists. I'm like, yeah, but you'll take the character created by these guys, strip of it, anything that makes it interesting, and then call the people that made the characters racist. I hate that guy. So there you go. That's how I feel about the Shang-Chi movie. Child sacrifice is a jerk move. I got to agree. I don't know what this is reference to, but yeah, there you go. RJ, did we lose you? Did I talk too much?
No, I'm here.
Okay. Real world identities and occupations give the characters more weight. Yeah. King Fu was a Marine, and that's going to play a big part in his solo story that I'm writing right now. He is going to go to Vietnam and rescue some missing in action Vietnam soldier, and they're calling him because once a Marine, always a Marine. I'll be available once I get this Bible scene done. Okay, yeah, I you know, like I said, all my comics are tentative on the you know, if Patriarch #1 campaign bombs, it's the end. So, you know,
John, I was just thinking with this comment here. I follow someone on X. I think I could dig up their name if you ever want me to do so, but he does religious art, but he does it in an illustration way. So basically not like paintings or stuff like that, but stuff you would see sort of like in a 1950s missile. Anyways, just to let you know.
That might be Steven. That's exactly what his art looks like. So I wonder if it's the same guy. Is that Spanish and English? It's called Oedipus. Yeah, that's a story or story. Okay, I like this to talk. Hey, Zaid's here. How you doing? This is a guy who he's got a new comic out called The Man with No Strings. He writes it, his brother draws it, and together they print it and make it. These guys, indie comic guys, this guy is making his own comic books. I'm so excited to see what Zaid Comics does in the future. Literally printing on newsprint their own comics. You know, let me know when you guys are available, and I'll start publishing through you guys. I love the way your comics came out. Check it out, Zaid Comics. Politics is the last show on earth. It's the worst show on earth. Oh, like project updates. Oh, okay. I didn't know what you meant. RJ, do you want to give any project updates?
I have no project updates right now. A lot of my artists have stalled for several reasons, but I'm at the whim of the artist right now, trying to get whatever books out that I can, and that's really the long and short of it. I won't say anything else than that. Is the long and short of it. Right.
I got to say, if you have an artist that you could work with and you have a rapport with, and you know, it is so, like RJ introduced me to Renzo, and I talk to Renzo every day, and we keep track of each other every day. And, you know, even when there's working on other projects, we just chit chat. I consider myself very fortunate. Oscar is another one. We'll talk every 2 days or so of just about comic books in general. So, and then there's other artists I haven't heard from September. I don't know if they're still on my project or not. You know, like, do I start paying another guy and start all over it? Because I can't use 7 pages from one story and then 8 pages, you know, from another artist. Do I, you know what I mean? Do I start paying another guy and start all over again? And then he shows up with the last couple. Just get back to me. Did I say something that hurt your feelings? Probably, because I'm a jerk, but just get back to me. So I don't know. You know, I got a couple of guys that like just where are the pages? I don't, I'm doing something else right now. I'm like, okay, I'm at their whims too. So yeah. But anyway, Patriarch will be done. Renzo said he'll be done by the end of January, but I'll say end of February, and then we're gonna do the campaign once the pencils are all done. I'm gonna start the campaign.
Yes, that would be my project update as well. After I finish the books that I'm working on right now, I will not, because of what's going on right now, I will not be putting a campaign up for any new books until they are done.
Right. Yeah. I know with Renzo, I could do it, but I think I'm gonna wait until the project's, at least all penciled, because then coloring it and whatever is, once you get the pencils, everything else will come. What is this comment? What about folks with weak or non-combat powers? I'm kind of fascinated by that. Like, like in a world of superpowers, that every power is good for combat. Like I kind of like that character. What was his name? Doug Ramsey from the X New Mutants. He had the power to read all languages. They call it Cypher. I kind of like that. Yeah, he shouldn't be out fighting Magneto, but what a great power to have as support. I do have a couple of people with powers, but they're not superheroes. You know what I mean? Like they're logistics, behind the scenes, facilitating the other superheroes.
As I had, we talked about this. I think someone in the chat described it this way for my character. I have Phantasm, who basically she kind of sort of has emotional problems because she can turn immaterial, but she's so afraid of getting hurt on the battlefield because all she is just a plain old woman when she's not immaterial, that she stays immaterial way too long because she just gets it stuck in that mode as I don't want to get hurt. The other one being Disc, who someone described as a glass cannon, because she's literally the most powerful superhero that's anything that I've described. And yet, again, she's physically just a plain old woman. And you can get her on the battlefield and she gets hit by a stray rock or something like that. She's gone. Right. So she does. I took a page out of 1980s X-Men. She wears a long trench coat and a hood because they're lined with chainmail. And that's the best she can do.
We were talking. I can't even talk. We were talking about like super speed is one of the ultimate powers. Like, how could anybody legitimately beat Flash? Somebody brought up real. So I have a character called the Go-Getter, and she's a female speedster. But I was thinking, just because she could run really fast, she doesn't have the reaction speed. She has super speed, but she doesn't have super reflexes. So, because if she had super speed like the Flash, she could just beat up everybody. You were talking about glass cannons. That's what made me think of it. So she doesn't have like an aura like the Flash. So if she goes around and starts punching people, she's going to break her wrists. She's a normal 120-pound athletic woman. You know what I mean? So just if anybody's been in a fight, your fists hurt after a fight. So just imagine you're running at 200 miles an hour and then you punch somebody. So she's like, I think the natural limitations to her is the fact that she doesn't want to run fast, because if she trips, she's going to break every bone in her body. You know what I mean? She doesn't have that super resolution. So she's going to run past something, because by the time her brain catches up with, so I kind of like that. When you, this isn't, I just realized it's not the chat asking you, when you said glass cannons, I like giving the characters limitations that make sense. Like just because you could fly at super speeds, you're not going to hit Magneto in the chest, because that's going to break you back. You know what I mean? Any chance of getting an interview with Brian Polito? Yeah, I would love to. I sent him a message. He never responded. So maybe it's time for again. Oh, well,
makes me think of a just, this is me and my weird brain, but a lot of people really don't understand how frail a human being is. I mean, a lot of people today really don't understand that. I remember when I was working on the farm, my friend, I was helping him out. He had a pig farm, or his parents did, and his brother got knocked over by one of these pigs, just a normal sized pig. So he took his fist and smashed the pig in the face with it. And he didn't just break his hand, he broke his knuckles so that one of them was almost poking out of his hand. And it's like, that's how frail a human being is, because this was a big guy, right? So yeah, a lot of people just don't get that. And it's something that I think is the reality, is sort of like the grittiness of 70s Marvel. I think that's the new grittiness that people need to be attuned to, just how frail you are.
Yeah, it's somebody said years ago that we are always 2 minutes away from death, but every time we take a breath, we reset the clock. And it just makes you understand just how fragile we actually are. And then just yesterday, the power went out at work, and it was pitch dark. Absolute pitch dark. Now, we're electricians. One of the things we always do is carry flashlights because of that situation. We're always going into places where there's no electricity and bringing them. So we all took out our flashlights. But like for 30 seconds or so, we were all helpless. And I'm thinking, like, how dependent is we need to take a breath. We're 2 minutes away from death. We need to eat. We need light. We need this strange mixture of gases that it's any different, we will all die. We are fragile. Like, would aliens be just as fragile as us? Would aliens think of us as like weak? You know what I mean? Like, I can't help but think, like, if there is alien life, it would have to be stronger than us. Like, we are so anything changes in our environment, we're all dead. Like, just think when we travel in space, we got to get this capsule with the pressure and this oxygen that is a limited resource. And then we got to travel with food, and then forget about it. If we scrape ourselves and get an infection, we need medicine. Life really is fragile. It's amazing that we do live as long as we do. Like, I keep thinking, like, what if there's an alien race that doesn't have eyes, but they're depending on some other frequency of electromagnetic? Like, could you just imagine, like, these aliens, and they carry a staff, and it emits like a radiation that kills us, and on first contact, we think they're bad, that they're trying to kill us, and then we realize that's what they need to activate their senses, just like we need visible light to activate our eyes. So they're just trying to make contact with us, but their radiation is deadly to us. I don't know.
There's a book someone wrote, which is based off of The Thing from John Carpenter. And well, the Thing is older than that, but they base it off John Carpenter's versions of The Thing, but they do it from the perspective of The Thing. This is what the book is about, and it's all about, I'm just trying to help these creatures. I'm just trying to get them into communion with, because the creature itself is like, this is how you survive. He can't understand how human beings can survive being separate individuals. It's interesting.
Yeah. I'm loving the comments. People talk about, realistically, a lot of superheroes would be as vulnerable as regular humans. Yeah, I like Batman. Man, just think about how beat up he should be. Like, I don't fight crime, but man, getting out of bed in the morning, I'm like, my back. Just Batman should be. But nobody wants that. He might as well be a superhero. It depends on the planet. I'm enjoying Yeah, gravity has to be a certain number, otherwise we can't exist. The gravity of a planet determines the species densities and muscles. Yeah, John Carter. That was the inspiration for Superman. John Carter was like Doc Savage, and Superman was Doc Savage meets John Carter, and the other one, Gladiator, from Philip Wiley.
I just saw a video. It was published, I think, just a couple of days ago. It was titled something like, anybody who goes to Mars will never return.
Why?
Oh, just about the fact that, not only the length of
I see.
there and back, but your muscles are atrophied and everything else going through space for that long, and then you're on a different planet with a different amount of gravity and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Just the resources to get you to Mars. It is, and for the next, I mean, we can't get there yet, but if we did get there, it's a one-way trip for the next 100, 150, 200 years. Have I ever checked out the mid-'80s anime of Dr. E. Smith's? No. I read the Lensman books. I love the Lensman books, and they are a tough read. Just a dated science fiction, but I love the alien races in the Lensman. They're alien. There's one race that just attacks us, and we don't know their motivation. There's another race that they just ignore us because their motivations, everything like that. We gave up trying to talk to them. I love stuff rather than like Star Trek aliens where everybody, the Klingons are Vikings and the Romulans are Romans. I find that to be so lazy. But you could do stuff with books that you can't do in movies because there's no special effects budget. Hoppy the Marvel Bunny is also used by DC and Charlton in the 50s. Had reprint. Yep, I love the Shazam family. RJ, I think I asked you this. If Marvel or DC said, hey, I already know what you're gonna say. I asked you this question already. If Marvel or DC said you could write one of their characters, what would you pick? And I already know your answer because I asked you this before.
Yeah, Wolverine would be my answer because that's what it's basically what Pulse is. He's a not really a Wolverine stand-in, as in for powers, sort of, kind of, but it's more of an attitude and the fact that he's been around for so long. So yeah, it's like I would write Wolverine if I could, but I wouldn't write it for Marvel anymore. I'm writing my own version. So
right, yeah, I don't want it, but I grew up wanting to write the Fantastic Four, and now I don't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole. But I am tempted. I'm tempted, like I'm being offered. How arrogant! Like if the gods were to offer me Captain Marvel, Shazam, I would jump on that in a heartbeat. That's the character that I feel is DC has never given it the respect that it deserves. And it would obviously be different than the Fawcett version, but a lot different than what they're doing with this character now.
I think that's you want to get to the heart of whether or not you're talking to a comic fan. Ask them that question. I mean, both of us work with Mike Gustovich, and we got talking one time, and he was like, "Oh, I would love to write Red Circle characters, like the Jaguar or the Fly or something like that."
I love those characters.
And Chuck Dixon is like Airboy. Writing Airboy was a dream for him. Things like that.
Yeah. He wanted to do a. He says he believe it or not, Chuck Dixon and Graham Nolan, they pitched Fantastic Four over and over and over again, and Marvel wouldn't let him do it. And he told me some of his ideas that he had for the Fantastic Four. I'm like, those are great Fantastic Four stories. He was like, don't tell anybody because maybe we'll use them for our own stories. But even if they offered him the Fantastic Four now, he wouldn't take it. But how cool would a Chuck Dixon Fantastic Four run be? We need to invent gravity generated text for the gravity on the ship is 1.0. That way, yeah, we don't lose muscle. It's funny that Matt Barr reached out to me and said, "You want to write me a science fiction story?" He wants to draw. So I was like, "Okay, sure, cool." So he kind of told me what he wanted, and I wrote a story for him. And I'm like, "Here's the first draft," waiting for him to. He's like, "Oh, perfect." I was like, "Okay, that's not the first draft; it's the final story." He really liked it. So Matt's really busy. He's a professional working artist. That's how he pays his bills. So I pitched the idea. How about we do like a science fiction anthology? We make it like an oversized magazine and make a black and white, homage to like old EC comics. We'll do a color cover and so he's like, okay, great. So I got like 4 science fiction stories that I'm going to send to him. But, he's working on 2 things right now. So, and the reason why I'm saying this is because one of them is about gravitations. Instead of electricians, they're gravitations on space stations. They're the ones who install the artificial gravity and all the mishaps that can go wrong. I just like that, blue-collar guys in space. Sooner or later, there will be like, oh, man, I got this great job on the space station, and I'm the electrician on the Jupiter probe or something like that, And we just take it for granted that regular blue-collar guys are living in space. Like, there was carpenters and electricians on the Death Star that blew up. Poor guys just getting their oh man, 4 more years and I can retire back to my moisture farm. And boom! Luke, did you think about them?
Funny thing is that I go to like library sales, especially in the last 10 years. Library's just been getting rid of so much stuff. And one time I bought a whole bunch of, I think they're NASA published manuals about what they thought that spaceships would look like in the future. I got like 3 or 4 of them. And it was, one of them was how we would install gravity and all this kind of stuff. It kind of looks like, stuff from 2001, the Space Odyssey. But it's really interesting. Again, you're going back to like stuff published in the 70s about what they thought spaceships would look like in the future. That would be a great anthology, if you ask me. Is like you have one of those circling, sort of like they have in what's the name of that movie with the corn, where the Earth is about to get destroyed because there's a famine. Oh, I can't remember. Interstellar or something like
Interstellar,
that. Yeah, but like if you have one of those giant spaceships where it goes around and everybody lives, and you follow different people that live within this thing, like you said, like an electrician or somebody that's in a different level, that would be a good anthology.
Yeah, that is a good idea. I just want to bring this up. In the Lensman series, there's a species of aliens that refuse to communicate with us because the human speech is considered vulgar. The Lensman, you're going to laugh at me, but it's wonderfully sexist. It's so dated, and like I picture like it's Mad Men in space. Like literally, they're like hiring secretaries and spanking them on the butt and telling, and like they're recruiting women because they're more beautiful. If we got to work together, we want the most beautiful. It's stuff that you couldn't do anymore. But they found a planet called Lyrane 7, and it's just filled with beautiful naked women. Now, how do they breed? I don't know. That's they didn't explain it, but they needed to communicate. These women wouldn't talk to men, so they got Clarissa McDougal, a gorgeous redhead, and they made her a lensman so she could go to this planet and talk to him. And she had to dress native, which so they're like, put on your uniform, and they're all like laughing as she strips down naked and flies to Lorraine 7. It's what I mean. It's just they're never gonna make this, and if they do make it, they're gonna ruin it. It's not gonna have this. I think tongue-in-cheek charm. You don't have to make it explicit. You can make it cheeky. But I think it's so wonderfully dated. I like John Carter, Warlord of Mars. They're never making it because it's naked women running around, and Conan, it's naked women. That was like a staple of the pulps. The only pulp guy who didn't even have any women was Lovecraft. He had one woman of note in any of his stories, and it was a man possessing a woman's body. So he was a gender pioneer. I'm sure somebody's writing a paper about that right now. But what was the center plane of gravity? So once you move from one deck to the spinning centrifugal force, that's one thing that always bothered me. Like, how did the Millennium Falcon have gravity? They shouldn't have been gravity on the Millennium Falcon. You know what I mean? It's too small. So, but that's one of my pet peeves. But we'll talk about it in my story about gravitations. So many electricians thought the Death Star was just a science base. Yeah. I want to. Chuck Dixon said this today in his Ask Chuck Dixon. Periodically on Wednesdays, Chuck Dixon puts out a YouTube, and people send him questions. I sent him a bunch of questions today. And one of the things that he said that failed, one of the failures of Star Wars, and he's absolutely right, is things didn't look so bad under the Empire. We were just told that the Empire was bad. Like Tatooine, how was the Empire destroyed? Tatooine just looked like a hellhole. Like if it was oppressed, there wouldn't be bar fights, and you know what I mean? Like where was the oppression? Like we were just told the only thing, like we just took their word on it, and they looked like stormtroopers, and Darth Vader was scary. But like, once the Empire was destroyed, it seemed like the universe was pretty crummy. So there you go. I think Star Wars would have been better if we would, like in the prequel movies, those Newt Gunray or whatever they were. They just wanted to trade. Like were they bad? Like, am I supposed to think that free trade was a bad thing? I think that was a weakness. We needed to know more about the Empire. Like we knew more about the Hutts than we knew about day-to-day life under the Empire. Whoa, they're oppressing us. Like Luke didn't look oppressed. he just looked like a farmer, you know. We called them CBs, or military engineer. Oh yeah, the CBs. My first girlfriend's father was a CB in Vietnam. Hey, Dave Brinks here, Genuine Comics. How you doing? Check out Genuine Comics. He's got a Kickstarter campaign for Perfect 10 right now. Issue 6, I can't wait. And then I also get the hardcover collector, and I will read it again. Yeah, there's Every Possible Planet. Wow, the comments are so fast, guys. I can't keep up. I'm loving this. I thank you, because RJ and I didn't have any topic. I was just like, hey, RJ, you want to go live tonight? Yeah, okay. So thank you, chat. Have you heard the comic book Port of Earth? Aliens conglomerate comes to Earth to get water and trade. No, I never read of it. Never heard of it. You ever read that book?
No.
Artificial gravity or magnetic shoes? Yeah. What do you guys think? Am I being too nitpicky? Like, the Millennium Falcon shouldn't have had artificial gravity.
I'm just thinking that the speeder does have gravitational push to it, and so do the other flyers. I can't remember what they were, the ones that are used on Tatooine. So they do have gravitational manipulation of some kind.
Right. Yeah, like when they're accelerating, everybody in the Millennium Falcon. But, you know, once they reach their trap, once they hit light speed, this is nitpicky, because in Star Wars, hyperspace is another dimension, and the way they described it is there's lanes, so there's literal tunnels throughout space, and the Millennium Falcon isn't faster than anybody else. The Millennium Falcon just knows about these secret smuggler tunnels that the Empire doesn't have mapped, so that's why it's faster. It goes sneakier ways. But once they're in these tunnels, they're not accelerating. They're really outside of time, so that's when they could walk around. But once they're in subspace, you know, unless they're maintaining a constant speed, you know, they should be in their seats, because that's pretty dangerous. But the Federation, Star Trek, they go warp speed, and they go faster than light because they warp space, so they don't need lanes. So that's why I always think if the Federation was to fight the Empire, the Federation would win, because they're not limited by these hyperspace tunnels. How's that for nerdiness? True, the rebellion was mostly on low population worlds. Yeah, like when Anakin went down and that guy tried to sell him death sticks, that planet didn't really look oppressed. Free trade is a bad thing, so says President Trump. Does Trump say free trade is bad? Commie propaganda with Star Wars. Yeah. Did you ever? There's a documentary called Loose Change. It's about the Skywalker conspiracy. It's funny. Oh, there you go. The Empire wouldn't recognize all 9 billion alien genders. I got it now. That makes sense. The Trade Federation and the prequels were using gunboat diplomacy in order to facilitate the trade. Okay. Tony's always corrected me. He's always right. Yes, the hyperspace lanes. The Fourth Age. Have you heard of the EGAD?
No, I just looked it up. I've not heard of it besides looking up just now the YouTube channel.
Yeah, you are under a rock tariff. Oh, okay. Okay. I'll buy that for $1. What bothers me is that I've managed to mentally create decent continuity for both Marvel, DC, Fate. Okay, so you want to use Marvel and DC. Maybe you can license them out in a year or two. The original Human Torch and the Submariner are already public domain. Marvel doesn't talk about it, obviously, but good luck. I wouldn't touch that stuff with a 10-foot pole. I couldn't afford the lawsuits. Like, using Mickey Mouse in your comic books right now, to me, is just asking for trouble. You don't think Disney's going to come down on you? You know, they might lose, but they could afford to waste $100,000 just to slap away the little guys. I can't.
There is a public domain character called Blue Flame, which is much older than the Human Torch. Basically, the Human Torch, but blue.
I have another fire guy. Just, you know, he's mine. I'm going to use him in one of the story set in 1996. Excuse me. Well, Star Wars uses lasers, and Star Trek said lasers wouldn't get through their navigation shield. Star Wars the only hope. Okay, I didn't know that. Star Trek said lasers wouldn't get through their. Oh. Don't get me started on that. Do you guys want to hear another tirade? When Obi-Wan Kenobi and Luke were desperate and they went into this crummy bar in Mos Eisley, a den of scum and villainy, and they went and they found this dangerous drug smuggler. That's what Han Solo was. What do you think? Spice was oregano for their pizza? He was a drug smuggler. He was wanted by the police. The Empire was the police. So this was a drug smuggler. He was working for the mafia, and he owed the mafia money, but he couldn't get caught by the cops. This was the most desperate guy. And how Obi-Wan knew that he was desperate was he went up, we made the Kessel Run in 6.4 parsecs. He was talking nonsense. And Obi-Wan Kenobi, he didn't know that Obi-Wan Kenobi was this General Kenobi and a Jedi Master. He just thought he was an old kook. Obi-Wan Kenobi knew that Han Solo was talking nonsense. And that told Obi-Wan, this guy's is so desperate for work, he's gonna avoid everybody. This is exactly what we want. And Han was thinking, this old kook doesn't know that I'm spinning, blowing smoke up his butt. And I thought that line was great. It just showed you that it was like perfect. It was great character development of these two people. You know, both of them sizing each other up. And the fact that they explained it away, it just showed me that these people didn't understand what Lucas was putting in that script. You know what I mean? I don't know. Sue me. And Han shot first. He has you covered before the pause light, so I checked your account. Oh, okay. So EGAD likes you, RJ. There you go. The Human Torch was blue originally, wasn't he? Or am I thinking of... Yeah, you're thinking of the blue flame. Yeah, because a parsec is a measure of distance, not speed. I know. And then, of course, other people... Nerds, these autistic nerds, turned it into something legitimate, missing the point of human interaction. The human interaction was, this guy's a desperate con man trying to hoodwink an old man. And the old man is like, this guy's so desperate, he's going to do exactly what we need. That was the subtext of that speech. But no offense to autistic people. I think I would have been diagnosed back then if my father didn't beat it out of me as a child, that this was human interaction that was missed, and it was taken literal, and then they had to turn it into something literal. They missed the whole point of it. RJ, am I talking too much? Sometimes? No. Okay.
Yeah. Here's the funny thing. Okay. Here's the funny thing I find about, you go back and watch original Star Wars. You're coming from a time where the everyman character that everyone would identify with basically lives on a farm. You're never going to get that ever again.
Yeah, because we, the people that make Hollywood movies hate the farmers. You know what I mean? They hate the flyover country people.
If you get that kind of thing within like anime and manga now in Japan, but they're all neats, right? They're just basically live in the basement of their parents' house. That's the everyman for Japan and most of, well, say Korea and China as well, if you can do it.
RJ, this is goodbye. You propped up the open racist Nick Fuentes. Nerdette was right about you. You are incel bait, RJ. Did you know about that?
I think Nerdette is desperate for views right now. She's been streaming constantly doing Marvel Rivals. I really hope she's doing okay. That's all I got to say with that.
Well, I know you mentioned Nick Fuentes, and I know that you said you don't know who this guy is, but you talked about it because he was a hot topic. You didn't endorse him or disendorse him. You basically said, I don't really know who he is, but he's the hot conservative guy at the moment. I saw I watched your actual video. That was actually the first time I heard this guy's name, and I watched this guy Nick Fuentes, and I got to say I'm not really too impressed. He's this Groiper guy. Yeah, I don't know, but
yeah, the point of my video was that the more they take out conservative influencers, the more we'll just say extreme the conservative influencers are that are going to replace them.
Right.
That was just
Elijah Brown. Do whatever you want. Nobody can control you, but talking about somebody doesn't mean propping them up. If I'm talking about World War II, does that mean I'm propping up Hitler or Winston Churchill? You know what I mean? So context is king. So there you go. Plus I wear my bias on my sleeve. I'm going to defend my buddy RJ, but he didn't prop him up. He didn't RJ, you could speak for yourself, probably more eloquent than I ever could.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm just people think what they want to think.
Right, right.
All I am is a gadfly. I'm just
Right.
talking about things that are out there in the public domain, public space.
If Guido shot first, then how come Lucas had to chop Han to move, which was done really bad to move? Because I guess you only saw the remake. Watch the original one. That was shocking to me. I was in 3rd grade, and I saw Han Solo murder a guy right in front of me. It was a shocking scene. And then 2 minutes earlier, I saw Ben Kenobi cut a guy's arm off at a bar. You know what I mean? Star Wars was pretty shocking. Like, I guess we forget how shocking it was. And that's why I loved the original Star Wars movie and Empire Strikes Back. And the first 20 minutes, I got to agree with Chuck Dixon. The first 20, once they leave Jabba's throne place, Return of the Jedi just goes downhill. But they didn't pander to kids. You know, and that was pretty scary. Star Wars was pretty scary if you were a 3rd grader seeing it for the first time with nothing to expect. That's why it was so good. Nowadays, they pander to kids. And Return of the Jedi, I thought, was the beginning of pandering to children. I'm sorry.
Funny thing is, so one of the things I was kind of thinking about this the other day too, John. So if you go back and listen to, let's say, story music in the 50s and 60s, if the person did something wrong, they die at the end. It's like, you know, if like what? It's like Big John. You have the song Big John, right? He killed some guy accidentally because he was in a fight over a girl. He had to die at the end of that song because everybody expected you kill somebody, you die, you get punished, you go to jail. That's what happens. So you have something like Han Solo. He kills somebody at the first of the movie, and he's a hero. That was like
that was the whole point
subversive for its time.
You know, Chewbacca was scary. They told me let him cheat at chess or he's gonna kill you. Chewbacca was scary, and then Luke tried to put the cuffs on him, and Chewbacca flipped out. You know, that was scary to me as a kid. You know, we take it for granted. Now Chewie's like, you know, first off, Chewbacca's a slave. You know, anybody who doesn't think Chewbacca's a slave did not watch the sequels. Han Solo dies, and now Rey gets him like he's an accessory. You know, I guess, you know what I mean. So he doesn't get a medal. Chewbacca's just a slave. You know, so I feel bad for Chewbacca, but he was dangerous. Han was a murderer, and that's why it was amazing. That's why the whole theater cheered when Luke was about to get shot by that TIE fighter, and it blows up, and they look up, and Han came back. We thought Han was gone. We thought he was a bad person. He got his reward. He flirted with the hot chick and took off, because we all thought Luke and Leia were going to get together, because they changed it later on that they were brother and sister, but that wasn't in the original script. You know, look at the early promo material where they're hugging each other like romantically. You know, Lucas didn't know they were brothers and sisters when he okayed that promo material. So Han coming back, it was, yeah, like you said, in any other movie he would have been dead by the end of the movie, because, you know, that's just the way it worked back then. So it was shocking. Star Wars subverted the expectations, and it did it in a really good, shocking way, and it didn't pander to children, which is why I think it stuck with us so well. And then when they started changing things and pandering to kids, it was the end of Star Wars. Like, to me, Star Wars was 2.5 good movies. The beginning of Return of the Jedi was definitely aimed for adults. Yes, you know, Carrie Fisher in that really skimpy outfit. It's still shocking today when I see it, you know. And if you look closely, there's a topless scene, and I don't know if they cut it out, but the original cut, when that woman falls into the pit, her top falls off. I saw that when I was in 6th grade. Believe me, I saw that. That's all we looked for in 6th grade was boobies. Every time I looked out the window, I wanted to see boobies. Yeah, Han and Chewbacca were drug smuggling murderers. You know what I mean? They were bad people, and they turned good. That was his arc. That's why Han Solo didn't want to come back to play. I mean, that's why Harrison Ford, he's like, my story's over. I had my arc. Luke's arc was through 3 movies. Han's arc was through 1 movie. How did we end up with Star Wars talk? We're just nerds. We'll talk about anything. I'm following the chat. Right, he wasn't a murderer. He was doing self. Yeah, against Guido, yes, but you know he killed other people. You know, he killed other people. I'm spacist. Yeah, the book Splinters of the Mind Eye, which Lucas made since he didn't know if he could fund the Empire. Luke and Leia got together. Really, really. I never read that book. I remember holding it in the library, and for some reason I didn't check it out. I should read it. Now I'm curious to read it. Star Wars is a man's movie. The original movie, it was a war movie. It was World War II in space, which is a limited theme. That's why once the Empire was destroyed, the premise was over. You know, Star Wars is a limited premise. Once the war was over, what are you going to do? It's like making an Alexander the Great movie 10 years after Alexander's death. That's a different movie. The Ewoks are where it fell off the rail. I agree. I'd love to live in a world where Luke Skywalker was played by Kurt Russell. Oh my God. Han Solo is Harrison Ford. I couldn't think of anybody else, but anybody else. I like I said, I don't know what's the bigger disappointment, Mark Hamill or Luke Skywalker. Ugh. You know, but Kurt Russell as Luke Skywalker, maybe he wouldn't have been as whiny. Yeah. It was a man's movie. I got to get some sleep. Bye, Zach Tan.
Jewel, good night, Zach Tan.
Yeah, the Human Torch is blue. Yeah, the blue Human Torch is the blue flame. The Ewoks were great. You guys are wrong. Okay, all right. It's always war. Yeah. Well, World War II. Even Lucas even said it. It's World War II in space. I mean, this my favorite spaceship of all time. I have like a little toy right here, the Star Destroyer. These are battleships. You know, these are World War II battleships. The TIE fighters. You know, or kamikaze planes. You know, it's like a poetry. It rhymes. Are there any old franchises that didn't degrade in quality through the incompetence of modern? Yes, I know everything. We can make a list. Marvel, DC, Star Wars, Star Trek, Doctor Who. Geez, like
I don't think Shadow has been touched.
Yeah,
I mean, you have the '90s movie, which a lot of people don't like, but it fits in with the general gist of it.
Again.
But I think the Shadow has pretty much come unscathed.
The Lord of the Rings of Power is ruining it now. You know, the Wheel of Time, Indiana Jones. That's another good one that they ruined. Yeah, everything. It's like, oh wow, they're finally making a movie of that thing you love, and I'm like, oh no, it's the mid-20s. Like The Lensman. Don't make a Lensman movie. I heard Ron Howard bought the rights to the Lensman movie. Please don't make that movie. You know, give it another 10, 15 years. You know, John Carter, the first John Carter movie was good, but they rushed too much. They put like 3 novels into one movie, and it was never. They didn't do it justice.
Tarzan. They could never make Tarzan into a woke movie, I think.
Willow. They ruined Willow. Yeah, Firefly. Firefly got 1 season, so everybody loves it. You know. Game of Thrones was never good. I disagree. I thought the first. I thought the first, was it 7 seasons? I think the first 6 seasons were good, and man, that last season was awful. And I don't want to read those books until that fat. I almost cursed really badly until that fat F finishes those books. You know, who's going to finish first, Ethan Van Sciver or J.R.R. Martin, or whatever his name is? Yep, conflict. You can't have a story without conflict, and war is the ultimate conflict, right? Yeah, Star Trek to me, you know, I didn't watch too much Enterprise, but the last episode of Enterprise when Archer and everybody waved to the screen, goodbye everybody, that was the end of Star Trek. After that, it's not Star Trek anymore. You know, that was the end. So, you know, yeah, it did get overrated. It was really good for a long time. Tarzan is I read the first 2 Tarzan novels. Did you ever read the novels, RJ?
Yeah, I have. Well, not the complete works, but the essential works of Tarzan. At the very least, it's been a while though.
Yeah, the first 2 page turn, I absolutely loved them. I got to get the 3rd novel. Okay, yeah. Did you read the books? I don't want to anymore because they just destroyed it. He's never gonna. I agree with you. I think that's what's gonna happen. I think my theory is that he was gonna have it end the way the TV show ended, and he saw the reaction, so he doesn't know what to do. They would turn Tarzan evil and the savages the heroes. Well, if in the first Tarzan movie and the first Tarzan novel, the bad guys were like like bad guys. There were Europeans and Arabs that went into Africa to like kill people and stuff like that. So they could literally keep it exactly the same. But the thing is, it's a product of its time. If you make a Tarzan movie, it has to be the 1800s. It doesn't work in the modern world. The end of Star Trek was the final episode of Star Trek. Yep. Well, the animated series was a lot better than I thought. It was good. It was the unofficial 4th season, right? Blade Star was ruined by Samuel L. Jackson. I didn't even know they made one with Samuel L. Jackson. Who did he play? Not Tarzan, did he? What year did this come out? I remember the old Tarzan live-action TV series. Yeah. The original Battlestar Galactica is wonderfully dated. I love it. I loved it because everybody made fun of it at the time, so it got to be my show. I really liked it. You want to watch something really bad? Watch Space 1999.
It's all on YouTube too.
I love it, but it's bad at the same time.
It's bad. We used to watch it every Saturday morning. It was on before Star Trek.
And it's really bad science fiction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember. That's one of the things too. There's a giant skip between season 1 and season 2 where they'd get rid of a whole bunch of characters and things change. I always thought as a kid, it's like, why would they do that? Why would they skip seasons and not show us the in between part? There is no in between part. They just cut out a whole bunch of stuff and almost soft rebooted the entire thing.
Probably. I don't. The second season's where they had that woman who turns into animals, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they Maya something. Yeah, they wanted to. They were desperate. I don't think it got the ratings that they want. It was a BBC production. BBC is weird science fiction. Star Wars wasn't that great. It was something different to get people's imagination. I preferred Battlestar Galactica. I didn't watch the remake of Battlestar Galactica. I heard it was pretty good. I just loved the Battlestar Galactica so much. I didn't want to watch the remake.
Don't know why I make this equivalent in my mind, but I was never a Battlestar Galactica person, even though I watched it and we watched it all the time. But I was very much Buck Rogers.
Yeah, I like Buck Rogers. What person my age didn't have a crush on Erin Gray? And then the woman who played the bad princess. Oh my God, that 70s TV was so sexist and was wonderful.
We didn't like our house. Me and my brothers. We weren't Star Wars people who would go around pretending to be Star Wars character. We'd pretend to be, what's the name? BDB, the robot from Buck Rogers.
Yeah, Dr. Theopolis was the android on his chest.
Yes.
Why can't I think of his name? Mel Blanc did the voice. BDB. That's fine, Bob. They always had to have a comedy relief. There was a comment here that I didn't mean to skip over. Oh, Battlestar Galactica. I didn't watch the remake of Battlestar Galactica because I was all set to watch it, and then I saw that Starbuck was a woman, and I'm like, I'm out. Why gender swap things? It just drives me nuts. Starbuck, it was Dirk Benedict. He was the good looking womanizer of the show. Why'd they turn him into a woman? So I was like, I don't want to watch this. But people tell me it's good. And I met that actress at a Comic-Con. She was literally just hanging out by the door smoking a cigarette. And I didn't know it was her. And I was just like, hey, how do I find the bathroom? And we just started chit-chatting. I'm like, oh, yeah, you're a Trisha Helfer. She's tiny. She looks like a giant on the TV show, but she's a fidget. The only reason I could think of George R. R. Martin is finishing his life work is because he's overwhelmed. Probably. Yeah, the Tarzan movie with Samuel L. and Skarsgård brother was bad. They made a ton. I didn't even know they made it. Now I'm curious. Yeah, what's the name of the movie? I want to look it up. I guess Tarzan. The original Battlestar Galactica was great. Yeah, I loved it so much, and then I didn't know it was Mormon. It was basically made to spread Mormon propaganda. It was made by Mormons for Mormons to spread Mormon mythology. But that's fine. It came out in 2016, John. Tarzan, played by Alexander Skarsgård. Unfortunately, the film was complete. Oh, that shows you how much I knew. 2016. I think that was the height of just ignoring all of this woke stuff. Come on, the opening scene with all the sexy women going down the slides, the intro stuff. What show is that? RJ, I've noticed the broadcast stories often center on a jerk character in a world of jerks. That's a nice way to put it. The remake of Battlestar sucked. I didn't watch any. Like I said, I just got mad. Like, oh, if they're gender swapping it, then I'm not interested. I'm like, okay. I believe Wonder Woman is the most undefined hero. Her origin story, weapons, power, transportation ability, fly are too inconsistent. How important is continuity? RJ, how important is continuity to you?
Absolutely important. And continuity has to mean what it actually means. It means there is a continuous story that makes sense, not defined in the way that people who write comics now quite literally defined it as a river of feelings. No, I'm sorry. It's absolute. I mean, it's like we were talking about Tolkien, right? And how when he wrote the first Hobbit, it had a different meeting with Gollum, and he basically redid the entire thing by saying this was a found manuscript, and Bilbo wrote the first one, and he did this scene deliberately that way because he wanted to make himself look less like a villain in this scene, right? You know, there is always a way to put in good continuity,
Right.
unless you're lazy.
I agree with RJ. Continuity is the most important thing. So that way, you have to be. If you change something, you really got to think about how does this change my world. You know, like Doctor Who. This is the last Dalek to ever exist. We just destroyed the last Dalek until we see Daleks again because we want to put another story about it. So don't make those claims unless you're willing to accept it. But I like Wonder Woman. Which version are we talking about? Like you can almost argue there's 4 different versions of Wonder Woman, but I quit Marvel in 2015 because they were disregarding continuity so much. It was before the woke stuff even happened.
Same with me. When Heroes Were Born, they were just disregarding all continuity for Marvel. It's like, I'm done.
Yeah. So to me, and please, guys, if you catch any continuity errors in my comic, please let me know, because it'll bother me more than it'll bother you. I'm so mad because Patriarch has 7 kids, and I named them all. And I have a list over here with their traits and their likes and stuff like that. And then I reread issue number 1, and I realized he had the first draft name. And it's driving me nuts because I picked the names all to mean something, and now I got to stick with it. I can't just say in issue 3, Patriarch's son has this name when I call him JJ, but in my notes he was Paul. So I got to stick with JJ, because it's in the comic book.
Here's a little familiar, let's say, family history here that we do in our family, and it's been a couple of generations, John. We do names every once in a while, especially for the firstborn son. He uses his second name instead of his first name.
Okay.
For everyday life, right? So my oldest brother, he has one name that we call him, and yet when he went into the military, they would always use his actual name. He had to get used to it because he wasn't used to it. But anyways, it's a good little trick.
Well, I'm going to tell you how me fixing this continuity actually I came up with a good story idea. But so in issue number 1 of my comic, the son that helps him skin the elk, he calls him JJ, Jim Jr. But there's a reason, and I don't want to get into it, why I didn't want to use Jim Jr. So in a second draft, I named him Paul. Now I'm like, well, why is he Jim Jr. and not Paul? So now I came up with a whole reason to explain that. So, and I can't, because I'm being squirrely on purpose, because it's the whole part of Patriarch number 2. So you'll see why I'm being squirrely when that comic comes out. But it was a mistake that I had to fix that gave me a story idea. Like, here's another thing: is the Patriarch has 7 children. Renzo 3 times drew 8 children, and he added a girl. So I had to catch 3 different times. I'm like, there's only 7 kids. You drew 8. He's like, oh, I don't know why I keep drawing this. So he deleted the girl. And now I feel bad. Where's that girl? The girl. So now I'm like thinking about this girl who may or may not exist. And I'm like, this is a kind of a creepy story that I came up with. Like, it's so disturbing. I don't know if I want to put it in a comic book, but a little, and this isn't my continuity. This was Renzo's continuity era. You know what I mean? But it's it inspired a horror story that I don't know. It might be, and I'm the guy who put what I put in the suit story. You know what I mean? An image that was so disturbing, I almost cut it. And how here's a story idea that it's even more disturbing than that I might not do. But I just love that, and that's what you do. Like you said, you find a continuity error. You come up with a clever way to make it not a continuity error. And then I'll give you a no prize if you ever find it. But I love that. That's what Stan Lee did. You find an error in his comics. He's like, okay, explain how it's not an error, and then he would award you a no prize. But to answer this question, continuity is super important, to the point when if you disregard your continuity, I don't want to be involved anymore. And that's what happened with Marvel. Doctor Who started doing that. You know, when they said, oh, the first Doctor, they had that fat, black, out of shape woman huffing and puffing. I'm the Doctor. As she's sitting down putting oxygen, like, you know, you're not. William Hartnell was the first Doctor. So I was like, I'm done. That was literally the last episode of Doctor Who I ever watched. Not because she was black, but because they disregarded that William Hartnell was the first Doctor. He had a problem with the Time Lords. He stole the time machine and took off because, you know, they still never explained what he did wrong, but he was on the run because he did it. And he was a human at that point. And when he died, he evolved into a Time Lord. It's all part of the continuity. So you can't have infinite Time Lords before him. Just drives me nuts. So I'm done with Doctor Who. And Battlestar Galactica was never touched by the mental illness. I don't know. I didn't see it yet because they gender swapped Starbuck.
I would say that it's the last one I watched. It was from the 90s, late 90s, early 2000s. That was like proto-woke Battlestar Galactica, if you ask me. It was on a planet. They had a lot about worshiping ancient gods. I can't even remember the name of the show. And it was like there was virtual reality worlds that they lived in and all these kind of stuff. So it's just to let you know.
In Battlestar Galactica?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It was an offshoot of it.
Oh, yeah, there was a spin-off show called Capricorn or something?
Yes, that was it.
Yeah. Any thoughts about the Dilbert creator? You know, it's funny because I never liked the cartoon Dilbert, but I liked Scott Adams. And it actually bothers me more than I thought, even though I knew it was going to happen. But I kept thinking he was going to beat it. So I was really upset. And I think labeled as problematic creator and racist, the guy just observed things and said things based on reality, you know. And I don't want to get into it because I'm trying to be drama free, but long story short, I like Scott Adams. I didn't particularly think Dilbert was too funny. I couldn't stand the art, but I like Scott Adams, and it bothers me more than I thought that it was going to bother me. Do you have any thoughts on him?
Not particularly. I just think it's all blown way out of proportion. He'll be remembered as a good cartoonist eventually.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. At first, I was a bit annoyed about the Battlestar Galactica remake, but it grew on me once I stopped comparing it. I got to get over it too. People tell me it was good. Yeah, you know, I just saw it today. I don't know if it's true, and I don't believe anything anymore. It's getting really bad. Anything you read now with CG or with AI, it's like you can't believe anything. It's kind of scary. But they said they're going to remake the Rockford Files. Why? Nobody right now is clamoring for a Rockford Files remake, and the fans of the original Rockford Files are in dementia homes. James Garner was that show. Without James Garner, there was no Rock. You're not going to capture the lighting. So just make a new show and call it the Filberts Files. You know what I mean? Like, you calling it the Rockford Files is not going to get you a new fan base. Oh my God, it's based on the Rockford Files. Nobody remembers the Rockford Files except for weirdos like me and 85-year-old people. So
and me.
yeah, it was a good show. It was a really good show. Watch it on TiVo or whatever these reruns. It's a good show. But why remake it? Just copy it as best you can and call it something else. You know,
the funny thing is, here's the funny thing, John. I agree with you 100% because I go through YouTube and watch a lot of reactions to things and see people reacting to movies and just stuff from the 80s and 70s. Most people today have zero any kind of idea about the stories from the 1970s or 80s. Like they watch them and they're just brand new to them. They're like, wow, this is amazing. I can't believe it was made in the 80s. So you want to remake the Rockford Files? Go right ahead. I mean, if you want to use it as a basis for create a show like this, because no one's going to connect it in their minds. Oh, that's the Rockford File. Nobody's going to do that. A couple of people like you and me, that's about it. The general person that's going to watch something that's still on television, if you based it off of something instead of trying to remake it, it would be a better idea because they don't know anything.
Right,
Nobody would care.
Like the Hawaii Five-0 remake. Did anybody was like, oh my God, I can't believe that. I used to love that show. It was my favorite show. You know, like Hawaii Five, like that's like making it one Adam 12 remake. We're going to call it Adam 13. Oh my God. They're finally making an Adam 12 remake show. Like nobody cares. Just make something new. Like,
I'm really surprised they haven't made a remake of Man from Atlantis and made it,
Woman from
environmentalist.
Watch yourself. Black lesbian woman from Atlantis. There you go. There you go, RJ. Me and you, we could be working. I would sell out in a heartbeat. It's like if you're watching network television, you deserve to watch this nonsense. I lost track of where I was. Okay, whatever. The 2016 Tarzan wasn't very good. I saw it in college. This Ugandan girl I do absolutely loved it, though. Well, I'm glad somebody liked it. I honestly didn't even know it existed. I got to check it out. I'm just curious more than it. What do you think about the situation of the church? What's going on with the church?
I have no idea what you're talking about, Alessandro. Yeah, honestly,
be more specific. Like, are they calling for a crusade? I'll let you wonder which side of the crusade I'm on. JJ is better than Paul.
RJ is better than all.
Yeah. Well, he's talking about the names for my characters. I cannot explain my thinking without spoiling something that I really want to be a surprise, and I know a few people are gonna get mad at me. John Longbox, do I have a YouTube account? Yes, John's. You're watching it right now. We're streaming on both our channels. RJ has the Fourth Age, and I have John's Longbox. And RJ, I just started commenting in his channel one day, and I think it was just you were talking about comic book collections. I said I have 55,000 comics, and then you just like messaged me, and we started talking behind the scenes. And then RJ said, "I want to interview people," so I was his practice interview. Unfortunately, he found me and made me what I am. I'm blame RJ for me. It's his fault. Yeah, I'm very grateful for that, RJ. Thank you. I had like 86 subscribers before you started bringing me on your channel. You always have one night stands, and he finds that he has some bastard. Well, the patriarch. I don't want to talk about that, but there was something that happened in his past. The girl is a Mandela effect. That's a good idea. That's a really good idea. That's actually less horror than I was thinking. I always believed the doctor problem had to do with his granddaughter. Why else did he bring her with him? What are you talking about? The doctor problem had to do with his granddaughter. Doctor Who. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Did they want to transition her without his consent? There's ego. Doctor Who didn't want his granddaughter to become his grandson. Let's not forget there's a massive nepotism and stupidity in the show. Are we talking about Doctor Who? Pattern recognition is racist. There you go. I just said that today. Somebody said racism doesn't exist. And I've been thinking about that all day today. It doesn't. It's a made-up word to stop people from critical thinking. I mean, you take a captain lieutenant, the CEO of your most powerful ship, and he ends up losing it over museum pieces. What are we talking about? Is this Battlestar Galactica? Yeah, John, call the Dilbert creators racism observation. Of course, you would go, okay, there you go. I just said racism doesn't exist. It's called pattern recognition, Elijah. I thought you were done with us anyway. I hear they remade Matlock with Katie. Yeah, I know. And they made Sherlock Holmes with, what's her name? The kind of good-looking Asian woman. Good night. Oh, good night, and God bless you all. Good night. Good talking to you. Yeah, and now you're telling me 60,000 people would really want to go back to living in the Stone Age is how... Oh, is that... Thank you for spoiling it. I didn't watch it. Now I know how it ends. There you go. I don't know. Would you go back... Like, RJ, would you go like say space travel wasn't a problem? Like, RJ, you're getting it on the ship and we're gonna land there. You're gonna live like an Amish person because we don't have the technology to bring you up to speed. Would you go?
I live like an Amish person now.
Right.
I have Amish people next to me. They moved here like 10, 15 years ago. I'm like thinking to myself, I live simpler than these people. I don't know what they're talking about.
I don't know. Like, what's his name? Tom Skill. Why can't I think of his name? Tom Scalzi. He wrote the Old Man's War. I read all the Old Man War books. I really liked them. Although there's a big problem with the premise. I don't want to get into that rabbit hole yet. But they end up going to a planet, and there's a race that's going around destroying all Earth colonies. So the only way they can survive is they don't have technology. So they have horse and buggies. So this is the far future with space travel. But here's a whole bunch of settlers, and they didn't know this when they were. But half the people on the ship were future Mennonites. So when they landed, they had like Amish people that showed them how to use all the. And then they sprung it on them. You can't use any technology or you're going to be killed. So they had to confiscate all the technology and destroy it. And they ended up really liking it. You know, the old people, not the old people, but like the adults, they were like, yeah, we like this. You know, they ended up having jamborees and playing instruments and writing poetry. And the kids, they just adapted. That was just the way of life for them. You know, I don't know.
Here's the sexist part of me coming out, John. I would say if that were to happen, the guys would take it as a challenge and they would love it, and the women would just hate it until they destroyed everything because they would not be able to go back to that.
Part of me thinks, yeah, there would be some women that hate it, but I think after, like, my wife would love it. You know, my wife would be like cooking sausages and going out and getting you know what I mean? But I do think after a while, I think the women today are lost because they don't have any meaning in their life. I'm with you on the sexism right here, RJ. Sexism is another word that doesn't exist. It's just pattern recognition. But we are what we're designed to be, you know. And now we told women that motherhood and raising kids was not a good thing to be. And I think I don't know. It's like we're sending a signal into them, like a counter signal that's causing confusion in women. And now we're doing it to men, toxic masculinity and toxic, you know, and now men are getting this dissonance in their brain, and it's making them miserable. But, like, you know, women, for the most part, generally speaking, want to stay home and be with their babies, and men want to go out and, you know, work and provide. Sorry, but I think that's just the norm. And if you don't want to do that, that's fine. But, like, being told that your genetic way of life, what you're wired to be, is wrong, is causing this problem. So I think those women that you were talking, I think after a while they would be like, wait a minute, I'm at peace. This fog in my brain is going away. And I think the men would be like, oh man, that wagon wheel broke. Oh man. And then after like 6 months, like, the wagon wheel broke, as they're whistling as they're fixing it. I was referring about the woke elements in the church. Oh, okay. Do you have anything to say about that, RJ?
I don't know really what he's referring to, quite honestly. I mean, I just know general things. I haven't been following the news if it's something new. But
right.
Yeah, it'll work itself out.
Exactly.
We'll get rid of these people eventually.
I've been probing RJ for what he thinks about what's going on with the church, and he doesn't want to talk about it. Oh, you subscribe. Thank you. I hope if it's mostly comic books and sometimes toys and stuff and board games on my channel. You shall not have other gods before. The Pope broke the first commandment. The Pope has other gods. Oh, didn't he do something like he put like an Islamic shrine someplace? That bothered me. If my memory is true, Doctor Who should have. Yeah, well, they established that he could only regenerate 13 times. That there would be 14 doctors. You know, he was born into the body of a. I said his name before, the first Doctor, and then he could regenerate 13 times. But, you know, and then they also said in the sixth Doctor, the seventh Doctor went on trial for the crimes of the 13th Doctor. And they said that the 13th Doctor would cause problems, so that they're Time Lords. They could have the trial whatever they want. And I always thought it was funny that the 13th Doctor was the female Doctor. So I was like, oh, cool. They're making the problem Doctor that causes all the problems of a woman. Wow, they're pretty based. And then I realized they weren't based at all. The open borders. Yeah, it always bothers me that behind the walls of Vatican City, they tell people to open up their borders. You know, popes used to call crusades when the borders were too flexible. I'd miss indoor plumbing, soap, as well as yeah, but that's just it. Is these people had access to modern medicine? They had medical supplies and stuff like that. You know, and there's nothing stopping them from building indoor plumbing. That's not high tech. We were talking about
soap is pretty easy to make, just to let you know.
Right. Yeah. So they had they had vaccines and medical supplies. And the knowledge how to make it. They just didn't have food replicators and stuff like that. John, in my opinion, who was the best live action Catwoman? RJ, I'll let you answer that first.
Eartha Kitt.
Eartha Kitt. There you go. You can't be a racist. You picked the black Catwoman. There you go. Julie Newmar made me realize that I was heterosexual back when I was like 3 or 4 years old. Even as a little kid, I was just like, Mom, my diapers feel funny. But something about Julie Newmar is one of this. Julie Newmar, Monica Bellucci, and Linda Carter are the 3 most beautiful women who have ever existed. They could do no wrong. But I got to give an honorable mention to this Bonet, who in that last movie with the Twilight guy playing Batwoman. A couple of scenes of her walking around, I just turned to my wife and I'm like, oh my God. And my wife's like, yeah, I know. What a figure she had. But Halle Berry was the absolute worst. Lee Merriweather was great. Eartha Kitt, she had that great purr, and she did slink around in that. She filled out our costume very well. But Michelle Pfeiffer was great. I mean, Anne Hathaway was like the cute Catwoman. Like, I don't know. I always find her too like wholesome looking to take her seriously as a sexy woman. She's like your prom date dressing up like that one night as a Catwoman, and you're like, oh wow, my wholesome girl is dressing up as Catwoman. But like, I don't know. I'm talking nonsense. But that whatever her name is, Lisa Bonet's daughter in the last movie. Oh my God, she just looked really good. And then Julie Newmar, Lee Merriweather. There's so many. All of them were great. There we go. All of them were great. There you go. I literally had this conversation today. Indoor plumbing is a little overrated. I'm not an Indian. I'm just saying pooping in a hole isn't that bad. You just described RJ's house,
Our cottage, my parents, we built a cottage when I was like 13 years old, right? It was my grandfather's land where it came up against the ocean. And it didn't have electricity or indoor plumbing for the first 10 years we stayed there. Just an outhouse.
My wife wants to move to Alaska when I retire. I got like another 3 or 4 years and I can retire. And I'm not against Alaska. It's just that like I want to go someplace where we could afford. Like the housing is affordable, but everything else is expensive in Alaska. So I'm like, I don't know about that. But like I've come to the conclusion, I don't care where I live as long as I have electricity, indoor plumbing, and my neighbors aren't trying to break into my house. That's really my only criteria, because it's like I said, I got 6 brothers and sisters. It's not like they're knocking on my door every day to visit me. And if I could do my YouTube show from West Virginia or Idaho or Alaska, I don't care.
Well, I'll tell you, John, I had neighbors trying to break into my house the other night, but they were wolves, so
Oh, okay. The previous pope not only had the Muslim call to prayer broadcast all over St. Peter's, but invited a bunch of South African natives to worship. Oh, really? I didn't know any about that. Wow. Yeah, the last pope wasn't my favorite. Not by a long shot. I forgot about the stone he let them pray to as a representative of the spirit. Oh, wow, that is weird. Wow, I caught up to all the comments. Oh, just as I said that. Keep your Irish or Italian ass out of Anglo Idaho. That's you're gonna tell me Idaho's not filled with Irish?
Don't they have potatoes there, right? So
yeah, it's all Irish. What was the best live action Riddler? Oh, Frank Gorshin. There's no contest. Frank Gorshin was the best Riddler, and I doubt anybody will ever. This new guy in the new movie, I liked him, but he wasn't the Riddler. He was like a serial killer. And I did like this movie because it was the only movie where Batman was an actual detective in it, even though he made some silly mistakes. You know what my biggest problem with the new Batman movie was Andy Serkis as Alfred. It was the first time Alfred looked tougher than Batman. You know, Alfred to me should always be like a little frailer. But Andy Serkis looked like if he put on that Batman costume, he would beat people up. The Irish were specifically known for being bad at growing potatoes. That's why they starved. You know, wasn't there a plague or something? I don't think. Well, I mean, what are the odds that every farmer was just bad at it? There was some sort of like fungus disease, right?
Yeah, it was potato famine. It was, it's a disease that wiped them out.
My problem with the Irish now is that they fought for like 100 years against Protestants that are the only difference between Catholics. RJ's going to get mad, but to me, the only difference between the Protestants and Catholics is one of them kneels in church, the other doesn't, and one believes that the Eucharist turns into Christ at this particular moment. The other guys think it turns into that particular moment. But now they're bending over backwards to let Muslims fill up their country. It's like Protestants and right now, like the Protestants and Catholics in Ireland should stop strangling each other and be like, okay, team up, team up.
Oh yeah, they're doing that. They're doing that.
They better, you know. Not a fan of Islam, ladies and gentlemen. You know, and I would like to point out, Islam is not the people. Islam is the belief. We're allowed to disagree with a belief and not like a belief or code of ideas. You know, individual Muslims, I'm sure they could be good people, but I do not like Islam, the belief. There's a couple of religions that I'm not a fan of. German, Irish, and Scott are the top 3 ancestry in the U.S. Yep. Arabs are the people, and they are bad too. Man, this guy Jewel doesn't play around. He doesn't mince his words. I had something I wanted to talk about, but I was going through all the comments, and the comments wouldn't stop going. This was great. Anything you want to say, RJ?
No, we're good.
Again, I keep talking too much. Yeah, last week we canceled at the last minute. We were going to do a midnight stream but I couldn't because I did a double shift and I had to wake up at 4:00 in the morning when I got home at 11 p.m. So I only got a few hours sleep. And the Dutch. Yeah. So anything?
We'll just let everybody know that we're going to try this format for the next little while, see how it works, streaming on both channels at the same time, which we'll have to do through John's channel because I don't pay as much as John does for StreamYard. But we'll see if I can get something going on mine as well. So we're going to try this format as much as possible, but that would mean that since we're doing it through John's channel, if John's not available, I probably won't be streaming every Wednesday like I normally am. Just let everybody know. But we'll see what kind of schedule comes out of this.
Yeah, I'm working 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for at least 8 more weeks. But you know that they're just going to redo at the end. You know, it's the airport, so they're just going to keep. There's 3 shifts. I'm in the middle shift, so I can only stream at noon or midnight. So RJ is streaming with me. So Wednesdays at midnight will be the new time slot for comic book team up. The show where we don't really know what we're talking about until it's supposed to be about comic books, but we talked about comic books, we talked about Star Wars, we talked about everything. Any topics? I'm looking around. What is the most recent comic you read besides mine?
Besides yours? I haven't been reading a whole lot lately, quite honestly, as I was waiting for yours to come in the mail. I do have a few magazines that I've ordered and things like that, but haven't got yet. But
are you still backing? Do you back other crowdfunds or anything?
Every once in a while, it depends. I'm going to probably buy more and more now that I have a little bit of, we'll say, secure mailing system to get them here. But yeah, I don't know. Quite honestly, John.
When did you get
Batman? Probably I went through I was rereading sections of 80s Avengers and Batman because I bought them a long time ago at a old comic store. So I'm making my way through those.
When did you get my comic in the mail? I'm just curious to see how long it actually took to get to you.
I can't say because it didn't come to my house. I had to go to someone else's place, and they just informed me that it was there.
Oh,
So what day it got there, I really don't know. It was before
oh,
Christmas.
so the address that I put on my channel and told everybody was not your address?
No.
Okay.
My address, I'm deep in the woods. Everybody, just let everybody know if you haven't got that part yet. I'm deep in the woods, so they even told me that no, I'm sorry, you can't have a mailbox.
I can't believe that. Right? Canada is doing that, trying to do away with individual mail.
No. I'd say the way that it works here, let's just put it this way. As much as you might complain about the U.S. Post, and I have so many times, it is beauty compared to what you get in this country. Let me just let you know.
It's funny. I'm a big fan of the post office, the American post office. It's like the one government office I don't have a problem with. Matter of fact, this week I've had my first problem with the post office in like 20 years. I get my paycheck mailed to me. I'm such an old fogey that I like to have a physical stub. So everybody gets direct deposit, and then they get emailed a stub. And I'm like, I don't want an email stub. I'm going to lose it. I want a physical stub. I put them in a shoebox. I literally have every paycheck stub I've ever had in shoeboxes. You know what I mean? And I put the shoeboxes in a spot. When I got my mortgage, I had to get a bunch of pay stubs to show that I had work. You know what I mean? So I'm always thinking, what if there's a problem? If I don't want to have to print out everything. I'm going to lose this file. I'm going to delete them. So they're like, oh, fine. I'm the one guy in my entire company that they mail a paycheck to, and I'm supposed to they mail it out Wednesday. I get them Saturday. I haven't gotten it yet. So I'm working for free this week. My wife is like livid. She's like, how can you be so calm? I'm like, they're going to pay me. So worst comes to worst, they're going to put 2 paychecks in next week's check. And I get 2 paychecks, but no. So that shows you I got no problem with the post office except this week.
I got the opposite problem right now, John, because I still have my business, which I do quality control for, and I deal with the invoices and things like that as well. But it has gotten to a point where the mail system is down so often that everybody is basically saying you have to accept e-transfers or direct deposit because we just cannot rely on the mail to get you your checks anymore.
Oh, wow. I my wife is from Winnipeg, and every once in a while she'll order stuff that we, foods and snacks that they have in Canada that they don't have in the United States. Like my favorite is hickory sticks. Hostess hickory sticks. Why aren't they selling? They're delicious. They're my favorite thing in the world. So every once in a while she'll order. The last 3 times they just sat in the wherever it is on the border for so long that they got sent back. So this poor guy whose business it is had to eat the postage 3 times. Like they're just going to kill this guy's business. And my wife always says to him, like, take your time. I feel bad, but at the same time, like she used to order these jars of dip. She doesn't order them anymore because she's like, they're going to sit there for 3 months and go bad. I can't believe how that's like the one thing the government does is deliver the mail, and they can't even do it anymore. Here's bring us back on topic. Who's your favorite live action Superman, RJ?
Oh, Christopher Reeve.
Yeah, Christopher Reeve. Even though I got problems with that movie, Christopher Reeve is my favorite. I do like George Reeve. As a little kid, I thought he was the coolest, before Christopher Reeve came out. But yeah.
Superman, the movie, always makes me emotional. And any movie that can make me emotional is,
Yeah, you green-blooded alien.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like I said, I got problems with that movie. And I know that's like a blasphemy to say, but that's just the classic Superman. That, Christopher Reeves just nailed that role. I hate using this word iconic, but I guess that's the only word I could describe. Government here made it very hard to keep filing our tax report and paying my check. Had to go through hoops to keep it on paper. here, I assume you're Canadian, Vaz. How do you think the world will be in 10 years? Better? Oh, absolutely worse. Absolutely worse. I don't think there's any recovering from this crazy situation. Like, sorry guys, I hate to be doom and gloom, but I think we're heading towards a Brave New World 1984 future. You know, and the Republican, like, Trump is the only thing that's going to stop it, and even Trump is disappointing me lately. You know, I'm losing faith. And the Republicans are not helping Trump. You know, we need like we need to get rid of everybody in Congress. You know, they're all compromised. And if I say what I think is going on, my channel will get nuked. But I think everybody is compromised by foreign governments.
Funny thing is, John, here's the way I think about it. If, you know, in the 70s or the 80s, I went into a coma for 10 years. When I woke up, I'd be thinking about how I don't know, what my favorite comic was doing, or how everybody looked funny in their clothes or things like that. I don't think that if someone went into a coma right now and was in a coma for 10 years and woke up, they would recognize the world. Let me just put it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. It's scary. You know, like, can you believe that the Supreme Court is arguing about what is a man and what is a woman? George Washington would burn the country to the ground if he knew that you know what I mean? What is a man? What is a woman? And then the person who brought the case to before the Supreme Court couldn't define it. And well, the justice was just like, well, how we talk about this case if you can't even define what you're talking about? It's embarrassing. You know, like, I saw Putin was basically making fun of England. Like, oh yeah, we're not scared of them. They can't even stop these boats from invading their country. Well, they're not trying to stop them. They're welcoming them. And then we see, like, that poor woman who got killed in Georgia, the Irina. That guy was, like, arrested like what 50 times? I don't even know the exact number, but it's something ridiculous like that. It's just like, what is going on? Like, I really do think, forgive me, ladies and gentlemen, but I do think Obama was appointed, you know, he became the president, and his sole purpose was to destroy this country. He appointed the worst people in the world. Like, it's too much of a coincidence that, like, all these judges appointed by him and Biden, they're just like, yeah, go out and kill more white people. You know, I think it's the WEF is just trying to destroy Western civilization, because, you know, at first I thought it was a race thing. We don't like white people, but now I'm convinced it's because the Western civilization is the only civilization that believes in individual freedoms, you know, and individuality and inalienable rights. And that's what's under attack. You know, that those thoughts don't come from Africa. They don't come from South America, Asia. You know, they come from Europe as a byproduct of Greece, and then through Europe, and then the United States. And we are the last holdout, you know, and they're gonna dilute us with people that have no loyalty to the United States, no loyalty to individual rights and you know, individual freedoms and inalienable rights. And that's it. That's what's going on. And
yep, 100%.
And if you know, and if these Republicans don't wise up to the fact, like, their kids are going to be murdered, what happens? Whatever happens when, you know, whites are a minority in their own country, they get murdered. That's what happens. You know, I'm tired of talking through the nonsense. Through the 90s, I was saying that diversity is horrible. Diversity just means we don't like white people. You know, diversity is not our strength. Look what happened when Rome became diverse. It fell apart. No society. The society has to be a monoculture for it to be strong. And Putin's laughing at us. You know, they're like, you don't want to go to the United States. They think men are women over there in the United States. They're going to take your kids away. They're going to brainwash your kids and then take them away. And I can't argue with them. You know, you know, like I said, I'm losing my faith in Trump, and I don't know if it's Trump is compromised the way I think other people are compromised, or it's just that the machine is just too powerful. You know, like, the Democrats were arrested Republicans left and right. We didn't. How many Democrats did we arrest yet? Well, we know. Look at all this fraud going on. Look at all these horrible things that are going on. You know, Bill Clinton and Hillary, they just defied a congressional order Is anybody ever going to go to jail? Fauci got red-handed trying to kill people with these vaccines. Is anybody going to go to jail? Is anybody, Biden auto-penned all of these people, pre-pardoned them. Like, to me, those pardons are invalid because you have to be accused of a crime before you can get pardoned. Because think of this. Right now, let's imagine Trump is the tyrant that the left thinks he is. He pardons Phil Moskowitz. He goes, you have a blanket pardon. Wouldn't it be a shame if you went out and started killing people that I don't like? You know what I mean? What's to stop the pre-part? You can't pardon somebody until they're, brought up on charges. Then they can be pardoned. Otherwise, it's just a presidential get out of jail free card. Go assassinate people. I'm going to pardon, this crazy person. And oops, he just killed the guy running against me. Am I making any sense? Do I sound like a crazy person? So that's we got to stop this. Supreme Court says you can't pardon people until they've been legitimately accused of a crime. That nullifies that. Then we get Fauci, we get all these people. My problem with Trump is, where are the arrests? We know all these people are guilty. And if the Democrats come in power, they're just going to come in day one and arrest all these people. My problem with Trump is he's not the dictator that the left thinks he is. I keep holding out hope that he's waiting until the October surprise before the midterms, and then he just rains down like a hellfire missile. But I guess I expected too much. I still like him, Where is it? Did I chase RJ away? I see.
No, I'm still there.
I proudly show my Trump dollars. I family members are mad at me because I supported the guy, but I was like, you wanted Harris, and this Tim Walz. I think the only reason he was picked as vice president is because they knew about all this fraud and they knew they could get billions of dollars thrown into the Harris campaign, and they knew she was going to lose. It was kind of like a producer's situation. We get billions of dollars from all this fraud thrown into the Harris campaign. She's going to lose, and then nobody's going to care about this money, and we're all rich. That's what I think. That's what and I'm still not going. They're trying to kill America, absolutely. Just because they're trying to get rid of the idea of individual rights and inalienable rights and in individual freedom. That's what they're trying to kill. And like it or not, white Europeans are the ones who came up with this concept. Other people have adopted it, but if we are the ones keeping this concept alive. Trump is at the mercy of donors. Again, I'm parsing my words. Welcome to politics and comics. Is it any wonder I've been in a bad mood for the past 2 weeks? Yeah. So to answer your questions, in 10 years, I think things are going to be really bad. Yeah. Obama was the libertarian. Trump is. Yep. Yeah. And it's funny because I'm old enough to remember when George Bush was Hitler, and then John McCain was Hitler, and every Republican since George Bush was worse than Hitler. It's ridiculous. As Mike Barron says about the Democrats, whatever lie serves the vicious child at this moment. When January 6th happened, oh my God, they're trying to overthrow the federal government. Now they're trying to overthrow the federal government. Where are we? He's made arrests. The liberals still, yeah. I think there was an arrest just today. I forget who it was. Trump had to go through the actual process. Yeah, he's going through the actual process. Yeah, I agree with you. I agree, but Tulsi Gabbard keeps saying Obama tried to overthrow the government. Obama, we have proof that he tried to overthrow the United States government. We have proof right here. And then the Epstein thing, start arresting these people. Trump's voters are ready to turn their back. He has to be careful. I don't know. Yeah, the migration. I agree. We gotta get we got to get all these people out. You know, all these people complaining that they can't afford houses. Well, with 20 million less people, maybe you can afford a house. Before in comics, politics was putting the current president in one frame, shaking the hand of the hero. Now it's identity. Identity politics is the worst. I hated identity politics before I knew the term identity politics. Like I just remember in the in high school arguing with these girls that I wasn't a feminist. Like, how can you not be a feminist? I said, because why would a man be a feminist? You know, why would I? Like, well, it's about equality. I said, well, then call it humanist. You know, call it peopleist. You know, change the word. And because I don't believe you. It's like saying, oh, you know, I'm a Catholicist. Oh yeah, but it's about equality. It's about Muslims and Protestants too. Well, then don't call it a Catholicist. You know, so you know, that was before I knew the concept of identity politics. Yeah, deport them all. I had to pay like almost like $5,000 in fees and stuff like that to get my wife here legally, and I had to sign paperwork that said that she'll never be on public assistance. That I'm responsible for her. You want people to come, you sponsor them. My grandfather had to be sponsored. My buddy Jan, when his parents came here from, they were Ukrainian. They were pulled off their farm by the Soviets, thrown to Siberia. And then people in Long Island sponsored them, and they owed like an indentured servitude debt to these farmers out in Long Island until they were on their feet. You know what I mean? And they're like the most loyal Americans you can ever meet. These Ukrainians, you know. There's one loophole in comics. How can people like the Avengers, the Fantastic Four, love people with powers and hate because the X-Men are jerks? I've been saying this for years. The X-Men deserve persecution. The X-Men are the biggest hypocrites in the history of comic books. We just want to be treated like everybody else, except when we actually get Magneto to go before the world court and face his crimes. Then the X-Men break in, rescue Magneto, harbor him because he's going to be treated differently because he's a mutant. Well, how about you let him stand trial and see what happens? You know, he commits crimes, you go on trial. That's what happens to everybody, except we, as the X-Men, we want to be treated like everybody else, but we want to break all the rules. Like, so they, in X-Men 200, they take Magneto, the X-Men break into the world court, take Magneto, and then hide him in the X-Men mansion, and then Magneto steals all this Shi'ar technology and comes back more powerful. They're a bunch of idiots. And then same thing with Sabretooth. They harbor Sabretooth in the X mansion, and he's like torturing Psylocke. You know, the X-Men, you deserve every persecution because you're idiots. You know, they just cry, we want to be treated like everybody else. We want to be treated. And then when you're treated like everybody else, like one issue Gambit takes off, and they all like, oh my God, he's going back to the Thieves Guild. So the X-Men hop in their car, they go after them. Meanwhile, Gambit wasn't going to they jump to conclusions, and the police pull over, or the police, they start going after the cop car. Cyclops goes, we got no time for this, and he uses his eye beams and takes out the police car, you know, because they just want to be treated like everybody else. You know what I mean? They should have gotten pulled over and shot through the windshield. That's what you do when you assault the cops, unless you're the X-Men. And then you could break the rules and then cry that you're not being treated like everybody else. So as far as I know, the Fantastic Four follow the rules. The Avengers have to follow the rules or they lose their charter. But the X-Men, they're a bunch of hypocrites. What are your thoughts on Paul Levitz retconning the end of JSA being facilitated by Joe McCarthy? The entire JSA was brought down. Yeah, that's so stupid. Joe McCarthy did nothing wrong. The only problem is he didn't go fast enough and take out the people that outmaneuvered him. Yeah, the Krakoa era made the mutant supremacists. It's very hard to come back from that. Absolutely. And what? They could conquer death and reclone themselves? How do you put that cat back in the bag? There's no drama or tension in X-Men comic books. Just
they're outside the hero villain paradigm. That's what it is.
Right.
Everybody else, if you have superpowers, it's either you fall into one category. You're either a hero or a villain. You don't just exist. They want to say, "Oh, I just exist. Yet I have superpowers." Sorry, no. You're going to have to be judged by the hero villain paradigm, or you're going to get persecuted. One or the other. Just that's what's going to happen.
Right. right. And they have this technology where they were literally jumping from cliffs, dying and coming back because it was fun for them. So how am I going to take? Oh, Doctor Doom's attacking. Oh well, they're just going to come back. Like they got to bottle up that technology. Like I said, once you change the status quo of your comic, you can't go back. You know, Trump kidnapped your Maduro in the middle of the night. If that's not something cool and epic, I don't know what to say. Yeah,
Cool and epic part is how it was done. That's something straight out of science fiction. Did you hear about how it was done, John?
yeah, it's pretty impressive. Pinpoint.
Yeah, 20 guys taking out 200 using future technology that no one believed existed.
Right? Didn't they use like sound wave technology?
Well, they don't know exactly what it is, but it's something like that to basically incapacitate everybody in the entire area so they could just take them out.
Yeah.
Besides the fact that the radar was just gone.
Oh yeah, Trump did a lot of good stuff. Don't get me wrong. I'm but I want more. I want like I want the juggernaut to just freaking just. I want to see the IRS abolished. Where's the audit on Fort Knox? I'm so like USAID was like, oh my God, that was the happiest I've been about politics in a long time. Get rid of all. We need all the NGOs abolished. We need this what's it called? The SAVE Act passed, in-person ID right then and there. Like, Roe versus Wade was, oh my God, that was so great. The border closed. Yeah. You're all right. You're all right. Thank you, Jewel, for reminding me all the good stuff. It's human nature to get wild. Like, the guys at work, they always complain about their wives, but they really love their wives. And then the friends like, why are they married to that bitch? Because you never hear all the good stuff. So you're right. I'm wallowing in the bet. You're right, Jewel. I stand corrected.
I'd say just off of what had happened over the last couple of weeks. I kind of thought this beforehand, but really didn't have that much evidence for it. It's as World War I, World War II was for the mechanization of warfare and had completely changed the dynamic of what warfare is. If there's ever like the next major conflict is going to change war in such a drastic way,
yeah,
that we're not going to recognize the world.
Yeah, I can't even imagine how the next world war is going to be fought. I do believe there will be a next world war sooner rather than later, and I couldn't even imagine the technology that's gonna come out. Oscar, yeah, the X-Men should go live on another planet. I absolutely agree. just leave, cancel the comic. How do you put that back and then have them stopping bank robbers again? I don't know. Unless they just multiverse, like the Thor, they had a good story about Thor where he became King Thor, and it was like a 20-issue arc of like him. He became Odin and then told about the world, and then he realized and he used the Odin Force to basically make like a closed loop, and he went back to being Thor. All right, I bought it. The other one was World War Hulk. To me, that was the end of the Hulk. Like he killed more New Yorkers than Bin Laden in that story when he was fighting in Manhattan. Buildings were collapsing and stuff like that. Like, you can't go back to just be like, me like beans, me Hulk. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what they're doing with the Hulk now, but World War Hulk was a great story. But like, if I was the editor, I'd like, you can't do it. It's the end of the Hulk. You can't, that's like Jean Grey blowing up a planet. And then like Jim Shooter's like, she has to die. So that's what I'm saying. If you want to do these world-changing continuity or not status quo-changing stories, that's fine. But like, I could do that. RJ, you could do that with Thomas Valiant, but like, you can't do that with Spider-Man. You bend Spider-Man. You don't break Spider-Man.
Well, that's why Hulk was always, in my mind, anyways. But I don't know if anybody else thought about it this way. But Hulk was always associated with the desert, to me,
right,
because that's where they put him. They put him in rocky places and desert places. He tried to get away from humanity as much as possible because if he unleashed himself, it would just destroy the character if he did it in a city.
Yeah. Every once in a while, a story in the city, but Hulk, to me, Hulk is the New Mexico superhero. John and RJ, heroes have flaws that lead to mistakes. However, too many flaws make a hero an anti-hero. I disagree in a little bit. Superman, Spider-Man, and Batman make mistakes, but are accepted because of sincerity. Yeah, too many flaws don't make you an anti-hero. It depends on the flaws. Like, are you too generous? Are you too naive? Are you too kind? Like, I've been off camera. People have been telling me their problems with my character, the Patriarch. And I'm like, because I like a low-powered, flawed hero, and they're telling me that I gave him too many flaws, and he doesn't have enough victors, which really makes me wonder about issue 2 of Patriarch. Issue number 1, he has a solid win, but issue number 2 is like his worst defeat ever. So I'm a little nervous about that story. But I don't know. Like I like my go-getter. She's kind of clumsy when she uses, so she doesn't want to go, because for her to use her super speed, it's a life or death situation. I think it's a natural counter to having one of the most powerful powers. I like when Batman gets beat up by a bunch of thugs and has to retreat and regroup. Rather, if Batman could jump into a riot and beat up everybody, then he's a superhuman. You're right about the X-Men. The X-Men deserve persecution. Because mutant rights. It's because I have pattern recognition. I see them doing all of these hypocritical things, and they whine all about it too. The IRS doesn't need to be defunded, just less taxes. Get rid of it. I can't wait for World War I to end so we can get rid of the income tax. Right? We had schools before the income tax and the Department of Education. We had illiterate farmers who wrote letters to each other that rivaled Shakespeare, and now we have college kids who can't write an essay, who can't speak proper English. Get rid of the IRS. It's, it was supposed to be a temporary measure to fight World War I. Yeah, death rays when it sounded like Japanese sound weapon from before World War II. Yeah. We were talking about that at work today. I blocked out on what they did. The X-Men with Claremont, like to cut my favorite X-Men. Yeah, I'm rereading the Claremont era. It's so good. I think once John Byrne left is when the X-Men started to get bad. John Byrne, I think, was the sandpaper that kept the X-Men good.
Yeah, I love Silvestri.
Yeah, I unfortunately, Tony, I kind of agree that motivation dictates the hero, not the flaws. Yes. You still need the IRS to go after criminals like Somalia. Yeah, the IRS should become Doge. They hired 82,000 IRS agents to go after me. What am I doing? I'm going to work. Have those 82 agents go after all the fraud. Have those 82,000 agents just going over the books of every agency. That would be great. Rhetoric that is Hicks are stupid, silly. Most homeschool kids are better educated. Yeah, absolutely. I told this a few times, but when I was back in college, I took a class about the Civil War, and we had to read letters because we were trying to get the motivations of the average soldier in the Civil War. And then my takeaway from it was these hillbillies, these redneck goofballs from Kansas City, farmers. The letters that they wrote to their family were beautiful, and they were considered uneducated because they didn't speak Latin or Greek. You know what I mean? But they wrote these like, greetings, I'm writing to you from the top of this hill where I see before me the landscape of that which is America. This is just saying hello to mom, and now, I hear lyrics to a Cardi B song. I'm like, what the hell is wrong with us as a society? Yeah. And this was before income tax. This was before Board of Education. Get rid of all of these things. We had the greatest army in the world before we had Internal Revenue Service. Fort Knox, there's too little gold and too much gold. Who cares? I just want to know what's there. They said they were going to audit it, and then all of a sudden we stopped talking about it, which immediately makes my conspiracy sense tingle. Yeah. Yeah, there are no songs about. There are only refrains. Yeah, it's funny. Here's another one of my pet peeve topics. I had a friend when I lived in Queens, we were on the same job, and he would pick me up and we would drive. And he was in his 20s, and every day I don't know, he just played the same freaking 4 songs. It took 4 songs to get to this job, and he would play. One of them was a God's Plan by Drake, and I was like, one day my mouth just couldn't take it anymore. I was just, this is the worst thing I've ever heard in my life. I said, we have the sum total of human music at our fingertips, and this is what you choose to listen to? He just started laughing. I said, this is garbage. How could you, like, I was like outraged that this is what he chose. It is the worst thing I've ever heard. Drake is the nadir of human talent. I'm sure right now Satan made an instrument out of his own bowel movements that sounds better than Drake. That's how I feel. Music is terrible. And then somebody was like, "Oh, you got to watch this video by Cardi B. It's so great." And curiosity got to me, and I'm like, "This is porn," and the music was just terrible. It was just like 4 notes. I remember, RJ, you were never into punk rock, right?
No.
I remember you getting teased. Oh, yeah, this is 3-chord punk. 3-chord punk. These guys are no good. Man, 3-chord punk is like a symphony compared to these new rap guys. Cardi B music. I would be embarrassed to call myself a fan of that. It's here I am. Old fart rants about music today. I'm officially an old fart. Once you start ranting about it.
That's funny. I was just so one of my friends listens to a lot of folk music, and I was like, and I'm not someone who's into music at all. And I said to him, it's like, there's a problem with this. And I'm listening to it going, there's no tempo change here. And he's looking at me going, yeah, you're right. There is no tempo change. And I'm thinking to myself, I wonder how many people listen to music today would actually be able to pick up on that. I mean, I'm not someone who listens to music at all. I'm not a big music person at all. But yet I can figure out whether or not there's a tempo change in a song or not. I mean, I don't know. I just don't understand how people can listen to what's on the radio today.
Yeah, it's terrible. Like I asked my young nieces and nephews, because I'm like, am I really an old fart? And they're like, nah, music sucks. Like they're listening to like classic rock and stuff. I'm like, oh. And then every once in a while, I'll try to branch out and listen to some new stuff. And there's like local bands that are like jazz. Like I guess jazz is coming back. There's a band from Staten Island, and I was listening. I was like, wow, this sounds like old, like Dave Brubeck 5, and like, yeah, these guys are local. They're from Staten Island. So I don't know. Maybe things are turning the corner. I hope,
Staten Island and jazz wouldn't go together if you ask
I know
me,
it doesn't sound right, right?
It doesn't sound right.
RJ, what I meant by flaws, for instance, temper, lack of mercy, or being too far. Yeah, those flaws. But like somebody was busting my chops. They said for those of you who read issue 2, the patriarch basically gets played by the supervillains, and they're like, yeah, like it just showed that he was a dupe, and I was like, yeah, it's a setup for a future story, but at the same time, the patriarch's main weakness is that he's like a dad. Everybody in his city is his kid, and he gives them the benefit of the doubt. Like Marcus Aurelius was one of the greatest rulers that ever existed, and then he set up his dope son Commodus to inherit the empire. Everybody else knew the Commodus was going to be the worst, except the father. And that's he's too trusting. He trusted the subterranean. So,
I'd say to Ryan that there's a very fine line between a villain and an anti-hero. I say if you're doing stuff, someone had said it's motivation, and to some extent, I'd agree with the fact that it's your motivation. So an anti-hero to me, as far as I've gone into the subject matter, is someone who doesn't intend to be a hero, but ends up with heroic results. So I'd say early Conan, before he becomes a king, is an anti-hero because he keeps on doing virtuous things but never trying to be virtuous. Hero would be, I'm trying to do virtuous things and I am virtuous, whereas a villain is someone who thinks they're doing virtuous things but are actually doing things which are actual vice. So there are fine lines, if you ask me.
Yeah, I never really like an anti-hero. What is it? Just like a hero that's violent? You know, like anti-hero means not a hero. So I always had problems with that term. You
Well,
know,
that's why I think a Punisher would be your basic description of this character. It's
yeah,
like he's
he's
not
the
a hero, but he's doing things out of revenge, which is not a heroic motivation. But at the same time, he's taking bad people off the streets and he's doing things that a hero would do, but that's not his motivation. So that's why it makes
okay.
him an anti-hero.
You just gave me something good to think about. You explained it in a way that makes sense. Okay, so you always give me something good to think about. Yeah. I was Vaz Vaz is the musician. Once we started talking about music, I was hoping Vaz Vaz would say something, right? And Sound Engraver is a musician also, right? Or am I
Yeah,
getting?
she has I think like an album coming out, a mini album. She had a preview of it on her YouTube channel.
Oh, cool.
Somebody go over and listen to Sound Engraver's music.
You know what's funny is my wife is like the kindest, sweetest person in the world, and she loves vigilante justice movies and stories. You know, she didn't want to watch John Wick because, spoiler alert, the dog gets shot, and she's like, I don't want to watch it. And I was like, well, let's just watch it. You know, so she braced herself. She got all the DVDs. She knows all the side characters' names. And I introduced her to John Wick, and she knows all the story about the high table and everything. And then I took her to go see that Levon Cade movie that Chuck Dixon wrote, A Working Man, and she's like, "Oh man, I love it." You know, she loves all the vigilantes. So yeah, so the Punisher would be. She loved the Punisher in the Daredevil series. Yeah. Oh, you're not
very much into like Dirty Harry. Go back and watch Dirty Harry.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever watched Dirty Harry, but like or the what's the Charles Bronson one?
Lethal or yeah, no, what is it? Not what the heck is it?
Yeah, that's gonna drive me nuts.
Oh, for crying out loud.
Yeah, I
Death
know.
Wish. Death Wish.
Yes. Would you agree with me that the numbers of DC announcing the sales of episodes? That's what I've been hearing, that they're inflated. I heard that stores are buying 300 copies so they can get the super limited edition cover and then sell that for like $2,000, and that will burn all the loss on all the other copies. But I heard that they're like, it's not happening that much anymore. People are just, so I don't know. That's kind of like the speculator boom of the 90s happened. That's what I heard. I don't know if it's true or not. That's what I heard.
Yeah, and after they've taken the numbers out of everything, Tony, so I couldn't even comment on whether or not where this information is coming from. So I don't know.
An anti-hero is a person doing the right thing the wrong way for the wrong way. Okay. Yeah, you and RJ explained it to me better. It's the motivation, you know. Okay, I'll buy that. I'll buy that for $1. Yeah, if the numbers were any good, we would be able to find them. The fact, whatever things are hidden, it's because they don't want us to know them. And you know, if I was selling 50,000 copies of Heroic Tales, everybody would know it, to the point like, Jesus, would this guy stop talking about 50,000 sales? Because you know what I mean? But like, if Marvel's numbers and DC's numbers have to be bad, otherwise there would be transparency. Nobody hides anything good. People hide the bad stuff. Yeah, Death Wish. Zane's still here. Cool. Dirty Harry is half woke, half based. Really? The original I don't remember the original Dirty Harry. I got to see it again. Death Wish is I remember the Death Wish more than I remember Dirty Harry. You know, but I only saw them on TV. I never saw them unedited. I got to watch them. Now I'm interested to watch them. Have you ever watched an old movie that you like? I started watching the Hammer films, the Hammer horror movies. You know, I watched them all. They were on Sundays on Channel 9 when I was a kid, but they were on regular TV. And now I'm watching them on cable, and I'm like, I don't remember like naked women all the time in these movies.
I remember watching Stripes for the first time on cable because we used to just watch it. It just used to be played on normal television, and not being prepared for, I think, there's just a lot more.
Yeah.
It was just a lot more to it, especially because I was watching it like with my mother sitting there, right? And I was like, that's not supposed to be there.
I don't remember this, Mom. Yeah. Cable TV was like I remember like watching movies and all of a sudden like there's just a naked person. I'm like with my mother, you know, 15 years old, all awkward, or they say the F word. You know what I mean? On TV, they would regular TV before that it was like fudge, and now it's like, oh, no, I don't want to watch TV with my mom anymore. Vaz says at the local comic shack they have a full row of Absolute Comics, but almost a few other. Yeah, that's what I'm hearing is that they're just collecting dust at comic shops. Yeah, it's like I said. I think comics every year there's less and less people buying comics. You know, more and more people buying trade paperbacks and you know. Graphic novel is a term that everybody misuses. The graphic novel is like something that came out specifically in that trade paperback is a collection of floppies. You know, Age of Apocalypse is not a graphic novel; it's a trade paperback. It came out as comics. Yeah, I gotta say, my wife gets mad because I'm like, oh, look at that nice interracial couple. You know, it's just you can't help but notice it. There's, you know. The ads are pretty big, but then I don't watch TV that much anymore. If ever I have free time, I read comics rather than watch TV. Or if I do watch TV, it's like a movie that me and my wife want to watch. Like the last New Year's Eve, we sat and watched Die Hard. You know, again, we made dinner and watched Die Hard and then went to bed on New Year's Eve because we're that crazy couple. Die Hard's fun. You know,
I over the Christmas break, I removed everything around in the living room, and I didn't put a television in there, but put an old computer monitor, but like old tube computer monitor, because I want to watch my movies on a pixelated screen.
Yeah, I have, you know, I'm looking at right now like a 65-inch flat-inch screen, high definition, and I turned down the high definition because it looks weird to me.
Yeah.
You know, I'm watching, I don't even know what I'm watching. Me and my wife were watching Archie Bunker on high definition. It's like, I don't need to see where the makeup ends on Carol O'Connor's head and the toupee starts. Tone it down a bit. I want to be immersed in the illusion of TV. You know, it's weird to see that definition, especially stuff that was filmed today in high definition. You could see like makeup lines and stuff. I don't know. I don't want so. I paid money for high definition TV only to turn the high definition down. The only decent TV series are Smiling Friends and Primal. Primal, I watched the first season of. I got to get back to that. I honestly don't know anyone in my circle that reads Absolute. Yeah, I don't know anybody that reads Absolute Batman, though I do speak well of Absolute. The Absolute Martian Manhunt is actually intriguing me. I think the covers look really good, and I've always liked like kind of trippier comics. But Absolute Batman is not Batman. You know, at what point if you change something and then you change something and you change how many changes before it's not the original concept? You know, like okay, this Rockford Files. It's the Rockford Files, but instead of Jim Rockford, he's you know, a carnival clown that you know, solves crimes by jumping out of a barrel while right. It's not the Rockford Files, you know, like this. So Batman, Bruce Wayne is an orphan. His parents were killed. He grows up wealthy. He goes around the world, trains, comes back, and you know, stalks night through his mansion and gets a sidekick and fights crime in Gotham City. This Batman is a 6'6" hulking barbarian who uses an axe and works for the circus or something like that, and he's poor. How is that Batman? You know, it's Tarzan, but he's a naval captain, and you know, he sails to the Polynesian islands looking for treasure, but it's Tarzan. Oh, okay. You know, make up a new character, but they don't want to make up a new character. To me, that just means, oh, this is a character that's different, but we just didn't have faith in it, so we're just going to call it Batman. So I don't want to read Absolute Batman. I want to read good Batman comics. But I'm ranting. I just realized we've been talking for almost 3 hours, RJ, and I got to go to bed.
Yeah, me too.
So, anything you want to say before we call it a night? Thank you for
No,
keeping us going. You guys had a lot of cool, interesting things. A couple of things I didn't want to talk about, but I'm easy. Nope. All right. So,
I don't know. We'll say I'll put it this way for anybody who's on my channel. Link is in the description both for John's book and sign up page for my Fade to Blue, which is coming out when we get the last floppy done. So just let everybody know that's there in my channel. I don't know what John has in his description, but that's there. And again, we're going to try to do this again as often as we can, but we don't know the schedule yet.
yeah, I tentatively every Wednesday at midnight Eastern Standard Time. Yeah. Yeah. In my description is the link to Heroic Tales 2. It's still available. I'm good. That link is still good. I was going to start making, I want to make a new Fund My Comic page. It's just going to be my store for everything. But I'm going to bed now. I'm too sleepy. So I'll try to do that this weekend, and then I'll update everybody. But Heroic Tales 2, you can still get it. Heroic Tales 1, you can still get it. Patriarch number 1, the campaign will start sooner rather than later. I'm not going to give definite dates yet. And I got another comic on the way from Antarctic Press. I got a 12-page story in Punchline Giant Sized 1. And Oscar, who's in the chat, I don't know if he's still here, that we're working on Eddie is Doomed, which is like a Love and Rockets meets Crisis on Infinite Earths. That's going to be a little more. I don't want to say, not safe for work, but not. It's not adult in that it's like Love and Rockets where it's actual porn, but like, deals with depression and all those fun things. Eddie is Doomed after all. So that's what I got in the future, and then I'm hoping to do a Christmas comic. I want to try to get this comic in your hands by Christmas. So I'm going to fast track a King Fu solo Christmas story called Blue Christmas, where King Fu goes back to he actually goes to Laos to rescue a Vietnam veteran. So that's everything that I got planned for this year. Thanks a lot, everybody.
See y'all later.
See you, RJ. Sorry that I talk too much. I get too much caffeine, and then all of a sudden, like right now, I just crashed like 5 minutes ago. Thanks a lot, everybody. I'll see you Friday at midnight for It's Clobbering Time. We're gonna have Batman fighting Captain America, and that should get everybody crazy. That's one to get everybody's blood hot. All right, and then Sunday Comics, we'll be talking about the X-Men 120, the first appearance of Alpha Flight. Thanks a lot, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye, kids.